Oo.
The kubing maker played the kubing after he made it. O kaibaw at the time ba? Another secret messages and ang kubing playing at that time. I did not know yet. I'm sure he did not ask me to go to the river with him or to go to the lake. So according to our heritage consultants, if we want to know the arts and culture of precolonial Visayas or ancient Visayas, we just have to look at the way of life and the arts and culture of the indigenous communities in Mindanao right now. So Lake Cebu is the home of the ethnic group Tibuli. We were so amazed that they made serious efforts to preserve their indigenous crafts, their traditional loom weaving of tinalak, brass casting of jewelries and ornaments, and crafting of native instruments such as kumbing and higalong. We wanted to see how a kubing was made, so we were led to the outskirts of Lake Cebu, and we found the kumbing maker in a house where the mother was also sewing a dress with native design. So the Tibulis kumbing is kubing in Maranao. So in 1521, chronicler Pigafetta, who was with Ferdinand Magellan, he referred to it as subim. Religious missionary Father Francisco Alcina described the subing as the musical instrument par excellence, as lovers would communicate secretly through playing the instrument. Dunay panahon nga giban ni siya sa usa ka ethnic community tungod kay ni-interfere siya sa mga arranged marriages nga gihimo sa mga elders.
Sanggungalo mare bel menatu dumum se de filanga lagi gamilin.
To Alcina, he said that the Visayans or the Bisaya are a joyful people. Comes from the word saya. They use musical instruments. They always sing, and when they express also their love, their affection for someone, they also use music.
The
Tibuli Higalong player, Elma, composed her song drawing from her experience of falling in love when she was still 15 years old. The song was filled with longing for the object of her affection, whom she describes as very good looking in all angles, and he has a pointed nose. And most of all, he is hardworking, a trait that is very important for the indigenous people. She wanted very much to be with Filinon.
Wala din siya mahimo. Kaya ang lalaki na asawa sa Filimon siya na abana.
Kanta na lang hasta.
So what have I learned from these heritage trips? I saw that indigenous peoples that are struggling in trying to continue the crafts. So they are wondering if the younger generation will be following their footsteps. So with the little things that we have done and the little things that we can do, we are looking at the whole community, especially the younger generation, to continue working together and supporting one another in promoting our heritage, in learning about our history, and to be proud of our roots.
Kuyugi ko nganong di man ka kuyugin ako bisan dili ko gwapa kahibalo ko mustoya sa kaagi sa una sa mga bayan kumamugos kuyog ang mukha ko sa kagahapon ni umabot kuyog ilagi ko di man kumamugos kuyog ang mukha ko sa kalayo nitupas andam daw pa ng subo para malingkawas kuyog nimo magkuyog na ta pagdali na diha ngano di ay nganong di man kaganahan kupta na to ang sundang nila pula-po leyon kilat flores sa gargadyo tasman andam mo away mamatay ulipon sa gugma gugmang diatay kuyog ilagi ko man kumamukos kuyog ang mukha ko sa kagahapon ni umabot kuyog ilagi ko man kumamukos kuyog ang mukha ko sa kalayo ni kupas andam daw ba ng subo para malingkawas kuyog nimo di ko nimo kuyugan inunti kag talawan di nakakatilaw sa humba o kinilaw kuyog lagi ko di man kumamugos kuyog ang mukha ko sa kagahapon ni umabot kuyog lagi ko di man kumamugos kuyog ang mukha ko sa kalayo ni tupas andam daw ba ng subo para malingkawas kuyog nimo kuyog nimo kuyog nimo
Maayong hapon natong tanan. Pamgras the Cebu Heritage Hotel with our partners, the 𝗵𝗃𝗃 Foundation Incorporated and other partners present to you this very exciting musical event this afternoon, Kaskas, the string instruments from pre-colonial to modern Philippines. So we had this in 2018, we had this video shoot of the Mactan guitar. So we were trying to trace. We had a series of videos at that time, Suruyonta, and then it was supposedly that shoot for the Mactan guitar was about touring our guests to Mactan to show them the guitar of Mactan. But we were not able to make the video. We were not able to finish creating the video, and then the pandemic happened, and now so we actually when we tried already to create the video, there were so many questions that needed to be answered. So it was not just very simple as shooting a guitar maker in Maribago, Lapu-Lapu City. So we found out that we have to chase the story of the guitar. So it's not just as simple as shooting the guitar maker and asking him how he was able to create the guitar, when did their family start creating the guitar. So when we now tried to create the video, we found out that the guitar has still so many stories or holes in the story that we need to fill. And even if we have already created a video that we will show you today, we still had to ask so many people, so many resource persons from the schools of music and in the UP University of the Philippines, the University of Santo Tomas. We went as far as Mexico, but that's just online. So we have resource persons based in Mexico that are trying to answer and trying to string together with us the story of the string instruments in our archipelago. So this is a very exciting event this afternoon because would you be able to answer when did the guitar arrive in Cebu? When did the Cebuanos play the guitar? When did the Cebuanos play the guitar, or even the Tagalogs? When did they first play the guitar? So we will try to answer those questions this afternoon with our resource persons. And of course, you already know our format. We invite you to give your questions as we go along so that our resource persons, so we have so many resource persons, like or five resource like panelists today, but only one will answer your questions. the, the, the one who is in person and on site. So we would also like you to know that this month we have celebrated and we are celebrating so many activities and events. So yesterday we celebrated the 150th birthday of our hero, our Visayan hero, the hero of Cebu, General Pantaleon Villegas. So it is his 150th birthday yesterday. He was born on July 27, 1873. But at Palmgrass, we'll be celebrating it tomorrow with our students from the different schools in Cebu who would give their speeches about their love for General Leon Quilat and how they see the magic of Leon Quilat's tourism still being lived today in the modern heroes of our communities. So aside from the birthday of Leon Quilat, which happened yesterday, earlier this month, so we thank our DepEd Taguig City and Pateros, and who is also with us on site today. Daghang salamat to Ferdinand Pagao, the supervisor of DepEd Taguig City and Pateros, for reminding us about the founding of the La Liga Filipina that happened on July 3, 1892. And that is by Dr. Jose Rizal. And Andres Bonifacio was a member of the La Liga Filipina. But when Rizal was arrested on July 7, that's why we also celebrate the founding of the Katipunan, because Andres Bonifacio, after they found out that Dr. Jose Rizal was arrested and being exiled to the Pitan, they formed the organization, the Secret Society, Kataas-Taasang Kagalang-galangang Katipunan ng mga anak ng bayan. So the Katipunan that fought for the freedom of our country from Spanish colonial rule. So aside from that, we also celebrated in the first week of July the National Culture Consciousness Week. So it's the first week, it's declared as the National Culture Consciousness Week. But of course, here at Palmgrass, we are conscious of our culture 24/7 and 365 days in a year. Every day is a culture consciousness day for us. So aside from that, we would like, of course, July, we know that July is nutrition month. And of course, we celebrate it with our Food for Heroes, or Healthy Food for Heroes dishes at Pangas Kapihan ni Lumaya. We thank the La Liga Generales who were here, the La Liga reenactors of Cebu. They are a group that reenacts the heroes, or the soldiers, the Katipuneros, the soldiers in the different periods of our history in Cebu. And so they were here last night and celebrated it with our Food for Heroes dishes. And they took at the Galeria Independencia of Pangas, the Cebu Heritage Hotel. And of course, also, we celebrate every third Tuesday of July, the National Children's Book Day. And at Pangas, we have this children's book written by children for children. So we had this workshop with the children in the different grade schools in Cebu in 2018, because we were thinking that there should be a children's book on Leon Quilat, our hero. And who else would the best to write a story for children, but the children themselves. So they wrote this book, illustrated also by a 16-year-old, si Leon Kilat ug ang sigbin nga gisugilon sa mga sugbong anong bata. And this was actually launched on July 27, 2020, during the birthday of Leon Kilat in 2020, as a gift of the Cebuano children for our hero, Leon Kilat. So, daghang salamat for the kids, for of course, celebrating and tracing our history with us. And we also admire them for being so excited in retelling the story of our hero, Leon Kilat. So, it is available at our Palmgrass Basahanan, our bookshop here at, it's at the lobby. You've seen already the books there. So our restaurant is also a library restaurant. So and of course we had this promo in the past that when you read a book and then you get the check of how many checks, you get a free drink after reading how many books. How about if you just borrow a book without reading it? You should read the book. There should be a question and answer after before claiming the prize if they really read the book. So thank you to our partners, the 𝗪𝗓𝗏 Foundation Incorporated. So this is a foundation by Panelists, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, to, of course, to celebrate our culture and our history and heritage. We also thank the Guitar Foundation of the Philippines Incorporated. Thank you very much for joining us on site. And we will have some members of the Guitar Foundation who will treat us with their guitar performance in a while. And thank you to the one of the members or the leaders of the Guitar Foundation and an owner of a guitar store and factory in Mactan Island. Thank you very much to Mr. Alegre for being here with us on site. So also we have also as our partner the University of San Carlos Department of Anthropology, Sociology, and History, the University of San Carlos Center for Social Research and Education, and also the University of Cebu Symphonic Orchestra and Strings Ensemble. Are they here now? Wala pa sila maabot. So we have the University of Cebu Symphonic Orchestra, and if they cannot come on site, they will also watch us online. And also the Central Visayas Association of Museums, the Andy Heritage Center, and so on 2020. And we also have a religious congregation partnering with us and showing this online on their page, the Carmelite Missionaries, the San Alberto Carmelite Formation Center. Daghang salamat for partnering with us. So we would also like to recognize our participants. So we have online, we have Ferdy Aparticio from Taguig City and Pateros. We have Ellen, who also here on site from the tour guides, Cebu Association of Tour Guides, Dudong Milan, and also Ferdinand Ascaraga watching us online, and he will be here in a while. And we also have from the National Quincentennial Committee page, Genelo Gerardo. Genelo Gerardo. Thank you very much. So now we would like also to recognize our online participants. We have those who registered and said that they come from these organizations. We have from the Philippine Red Cross Volunteer from Luzon, and also from the Silangan Chamber Guitar Ensemble Ann Arbor Montessori Learning Center. So we don't know which part of Luzon is this. Is this which part in Luzon? And also we have the Kaita Rondalia watching us right now. And also we have someone from the Living Learning Homeschool, Kat G from the tour guides of Cebu, Flag, also here on site, and the University of Cebu Orchestra also watching us online. And we have someone from the Cebu Institute of Technology University. And we have also a Philippine Red Cross volunteer. Daghang salamat for joining us, even if you are not here on site, but thank you for joining us online. And we have also someone from the Mindanao State University, General Santos. Daghang salamat. And we have someone from Guide Davao Incorporated. And we also have someone from the Cagayan de Oro Symphony Orchestra and 𝗥𝗚𝗏 Musical Society. This is really a music organization because 𝗥𝗏 is part of their name of their organization. Daghang salamat to Cagayan de Oro, Davao, General Santos for joining us in this event, a musical journey to our past. So thank you to Flag and also to the Guitar Foundation on site. Nana dire. Okay na ni. Daghang salamat. So uh, so now we have this so from also from Genelo Gerardo from Ususan Elementary School from Taguig City and Pateros. Al Quizon, the president of the Flag Tour Guides. Daghang salamat. Si Dodong Milan is online. Thank you very much. So we would like you to give your questions as we go along or your comments. So now we also would like to remind you of our event tomorrow. Actually, this is a rare occasion that we have an event 2 days in a row. Um, so tomorrow we would be celebrating in an event Leon at 1:50 the battles, magic, and love life of hero Leon Kilat. So we would know, did Leon Kilat have a love life? Was he a virgin and a martyr? or, or did he have a love life? And then and of course his magic and his battles. And we will have our contestants, our talented contestants of Cebu in the Cebu Central Visayas Hybrid Speech Contest tomorrow. Um, 6 of them will be on site. They will be here in person, and 1 will be online. So there are 7 contestants. So we have from the different schools in Cebu, and the online contestant, the one who would give her speech online is from the division of Bugo. We have from division of Toledo City Division, and we have from Cebu City Division, and from the Mandawi City Division. So that would be, watch out for it tomorrow, and we invite the supporters and the friends to watch the youth of Cebu speak about their love of our hero Leon Kilat and how they see the magic of heroism being still alive today in our community. So because in August we would be celebrating the language month, the month of the languages and local languages, I mean the national language and the local languages. We will have our literary events. On August 12, we will have conversations and poetry reading with a multi-awarded Cebuano poet, Adonis Dorado, with the title Gigausan, Poetic Inspiration, Perspiration, and Climax. So that would be 3 p.m. So of course, you would see the graphics of a naked chicken because a person writing poetry is no different from a naked chicken. You would really, himulbulan gid ka. And Adonis reminded me, himulbulan comes from the word bulbul. So, and that's a 500-year-old word. Pigafetta already mentioned that word when he listed the Cebuano words when they came to Cebu 500 years ago. So on August 19, we will have another event with the women in literary arts in Cebu. Babay sa balak. Wala na ni Gigawsan ani. Babay sa balak. So the women in poetry with the women in literary arts in Cebu. So watch out for this. Actually, when we tried to look for the story of the string instruments, the guitar, and we would see really that the balak is really part of our culture and heritage. But the balak in the past was always sung because sige man tagganta, managanahan kay tag video kay no. So so mo na explanation why is it that the Visayans always want to sing in video kay bisag tungang gabi na, bisag kadlaw na, binuntagay pa, morning the night, because historically the Visayans were always singing from morning until night. Maundang na lang ni katulog. So, and the balak was also sung. So now, sa daghan na tong istorya ani, we would like to introduce to you our esteemed resource persons on site, and we will also introduce to you our resource persons who are online or recorded. We interviewed them online and recorded their answers, and you would see also their interaction with us. So we are so happy that he is with us this afternoon. So our resource person is he is a professor of musicology at the University of the Philippines College of Music. He has researched. He is also an ethnomusicologist. He has researched on the Agusan Manubu possession ritual and looked at it from a particular historical point of view, and he has published an essay on the cultural history of the late 19th century Ilustrado piano music, because he is also a pianist, and he won the best book in social science in 2018 by the Philippine National Book Development Board, and um, he has produced, directed, and written documentary film projects, one of which was The Seven Dances of Life, and nominated as the best documentary film category in the 2018 Gawad Urian. Murag may insecure ta, no? Joke. Kuya Juan, makita siya sa to video. And also an alumnus of the University of the Philippines. He got his Bachelor of Musicology in the University of the Philippines. He got his master's in ethnomusicology at the University of Hawaii, and he earned his PhD in the anthropology of music from the University of Pennsylvania. So it is our pleasure, and we are so happy and delighted to have him with us in person today. Please help me welcome the former Dean of the UP Diliman College of Music, Dr. Jose Jojo Benconsejo.
Maayong hapon kaninyong tanan. Maayong hapon.
Okay ta, nagdunggan ninyo. Maayong hapon, Dr. Jojo. So actually, Dr. Jojo was really a recommended resource person for this topic. When we were trying to look for resource persons for the story of this guitar, I was asking Dr. 𝗫𝗏𝗏, the national artist for literature, and he told me it should be Jojo Benconsejo. And he is a Cebuano also from Barili.
No, Dalaget.
Dalaget. Duol-duol ra silingan. From Dalaget. So
But my mother comes, I live in Consolacion because my mother comes from Consolacion.
yes.
So I'm a mix of north and south.
So we also asked the director of the Cebuano Study Center, Dr. 𝗍𝗆, and she said it should be Dr. Jojo. So thank you very much, Dr. Jojo, for really being here with us today. So now we would also like to introduce to you our other panelist, who is also with us on site today. So you have heard his hit song Dili Tanan. So of course, you know that. And also, if you have heard that song, a very popular song, Ulan, have you heard that song by 𝗆𝚀? He was the composer. He composed that song, Ulan. Lagi na lang umuulan. Diba? Have you heard that song? When it's raining, you always want to hear that song. Lagi na lang umuulan. Even if it's not raining, you would really feel the rain when you hear that song. And then, pero it's really is it a song of heartbreak? So, so, so lagi na lang umuulan. It's always raining because when the heart breaks, the rain would fall. Every time your heart would break, the rain falls. There's a song of that in English, a favorite of my of my classmates in the past. So he is a member of the Filipino Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, and he is the vocalist of the stage crew. He was a lead vocalist of the stage crew band, uh, and he revived the song "Next in Line," a soundtrack of the Jologs Under Stars cinema. And so please help me welcome. We are so happy to have with us a guitarist, singer, songwriter who also is a guitarist. So really look for a singer-songwriter who can also play the guitar to give us samples of guitar pieces of Cebuano songs. Please help me welcome Romel Toyko.
Maayong hapon na tong tanan. Good afternoon, everyone.
So, dili tanan laki gwapo, pero kini nga laki gwapo yun ni.
Salamat.
Unya sa to dili tanang long hair rocker, kini nga rocker long hair ni.
Dili tanang upaw sinaw.
Unsay dili tanang upaw sinaw ang uban. Unsa may sumpay?
Upaw sinaw, dili tanang sinaw. Doon. Ako nang kantahon
Oh,
later,
dili
ma'am.
tanang upaw sinaw, dunay sinaw nga nagpaupaw-upaw lang.
Pero mangisog, mukalit og gimaw.
So dili tanang upaw sinaw, dunay upaw nga kung dunay sinaw nga kung mangisog mugimaw.
Mugimaw.
So balak sadto, daghang salamat.
Oh.
Thank you very much to 𝗏𝘂𝗀𝗀, our on-site panelist, and also he would treat us also to the hit songs on guitar, the Cebuano hit songs that he has also that he knows. So we are also very glad to have with us in this panel of our esteemed resource persons. So she is a professor of musicology at the University of Santo Tomas Conservatory of Music, and she got her Bachelor of Music major in piano and magna cum laude at the University of Santo Tomas, and she got her Masters of Music, Masters in Music major in musicology at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. So, estudyante ni Dr. Jojo. So, and she got her Doctor of Philosophy in Music at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. And she is also the director of the Research Center for Culture, Arts, and the Humanities at the University of Santo Tomas. Please help me welcome. We are so happy that she is one of our resource persons today, Dr. Maria Alexandra 𝗍𝗂𝗀.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Maria Alexandra 𝗍𝗂𝗀𝗀, a professor of musicology at the University of Santo Tomas Conservatory of Music, and concurrently, I'm also the director of the UST Research Center for Culture, Arts, and Humanities. I'm a historical musicologist working on music of the Philippines, particularly during the 19th century. I work on the transculturation of music.
Dahil salamat to Dr. Sandy. So actually, she was referred to me by this next resource person who is based in Mexico. So when we were trying to look for the galleon, so how did the guitar come here to into our archipelago? So we tried to connect with the Philippine Embassy in Mexico. So we connected with the Philippine Embassy of Mexico. So thank you very much to the Philippine Embassy in Mexico for helping us look for resource persons in Mexico to help us trace the story of the guitar. So we have with us also in this panel, she is from the Department of History at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and she specializes in the 16th to 18th century Philippines, the history of the galleon trade, and the Filipino migration to Mexico during the Spanish colonial period. And she got his PhD in history from the Colegio de Mexico in Mexico City, and her dissertation focuses on the galleon sailors from the 16th to 17th century and the commodities that they traded and they brought. So she is currently teaching Latin American history from the Precolumbian period and to the present period. And she got her her interest includes the Spanish colonization in the Philippines, commercial trade, and social and labor history from the 16th to 18th century. So please help me welcome an assistant professor at the UP Diliman Department of History, and we thank the Philippine Embassy in Mexico for introducing her to us. Please help me welcome Dr. 𝗏𝘂𝗀𝗏 𝗂𝗏𝘀𝗀.
Thank you so much, Agripina. It's a pleasure to be with you here. Uh, Thank you for the invitation from Palm Glass Heritage Hotel. Yeah, thank you.
Daghang salamat, Dr. Cristel, for uh, for really accepting the invitation. She was researching at the rural communities in Mexico, so she was telling us that we cannot have her at an earlier date in July because she's still having her research and there's no internet. There's low internet connection at at those rural areas. So we were thinking, so it's not just in the Philippines. We are not alone. Hindi tayo nag-iisa. Nga we have areas in our communities, in the rural communities that have a weak internet connection. And then when we interviewed her, actually, during our recording, when we interviewed her, at the last part, like at 55 minutes, she froze because she told me nag-brown out. So 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 mag-brown out sa DI in Mexico. So that's how we would hear her sharing her insights, also her information about the galleon trade and the Mexican culture in relation to the Filipino culture. So aside from Dr. Cristel Obispado, the Philippine Embassy in Mexico also told us that they refer to us this another resource person who could be in our panel. So another resource person is a Filipino American but is based in Mexico. He is a musician, a pianist, an choir director in Mexico, and he's so interested in tracing his roots because he is his grandmother or his grandmother was from Sorsogon. So or is from Sorsogon. So please help me welcome choir director and pianist Maestro Dani Camara.
My mother is from Sorsogon province, and in our hometown of Gubat, we greet people this way: Diyos maray na adlaw, or Diyos maray na bangi. Here in Mexico, we would say buenos dias and buenas tardes. I'm very happy to be here to share with you some of the fascinating information about the profound historical cultural relationship between Mexico and the Philippines and how that's reflected in our mutual musical traditions.
Daghang salamat, Maestro Dani, for really, actually, the Philippine Embassy in Mexico sent me an email on a Friday, and then so they said that um, on a Thursday, and then I responded that yes, we would like to interview him because they were still asking, would you like to interview him? And said yes, we want to interview him, and the answer was but it was on a night time, and then so after I at 9 p.m. so sent him a message. I communicated with Danny, like Maestro Danny, at 2 a.m. in the morning because accidentally I woke up and I saw that his WhatsApp number for us to connect with him, and then the interview with him happened 10 hours after. So it was 1 p.m. at his time, and our interview with him was at 9 p.m. his time. So, and then so he's really also very glad to share his insights regarding Mexican culture in relation to Filipino culture. So now, as we started this event with my sharing with you our story of this video that we tried to create about the guitar, the Cebu guitar, the Mactan guitar. So right now we would show you the draft. Is this the draft? Yes, this is our first draft, but this is already validated. So we would like to show you the historical context of the guitar, the Philippine guitar. So it is not just the Cebu guitar, but it is now the guitar as a whole in our archipelago. We thank the Social Communications Asia, Prospero Lapot, for this video. shot first in 2018 and continued until recently. And so this is produced by 𝗵𝙗𝗔𝗏 Foundation Incorporated and Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel. So please watch this video of the historical context of the guitar.
The guitar rendition of his popular Cebuano ballad, Matud Nila, showcases the musical prowess of Filipinos and their affinity for melancholic love songs and folk stories. Such keen musical expression and talent did not escape Francisco Ignacio Alsina, a Jesuit missionary from Spain who arrived in the Visayas in 1632 and wrote a detailed account of the Visayan society. He wrote that the Visayans play with such dexterity that by just playing such instruments as the 𝗎𝗏𝗄 and 𝗎𝗏𝗏, they speak and make love to one another.
𝗎𝗏𝗄 is two-string lutes, but there are many types of two-string lutes in the Philippines.
𝗎𝗏𝗏𝗏 is a professor of musicology at the University of the Philippines College of Music. He has conducted wide-ranging ethnographic research on Philippine musical traditions, rituals, and cultural history.
There are many types of two-string lutes in the Philippines. In Palawan, I think it's called 𝗎𝗏𝗄. The resonator is box-like, meaning horizontal. Those in the Maranao looks like a boat. Among the Tibuli, it's called hegalong or faglong.
Music in the archipelago had always been vibrant and entrenched in its cultural practices.
One characteristic of pre-Hispanic societies was that we were so ritualistic. And, you know, if there's a ritual gathering for a certain purpose, like to cure or to inaugurate a house, if people are gathered together in some kind of a celebration, of course, music is always there.
That soundscape, as Professor 𝗏𝗀𝗀 would call it, defined pre-Hispanic music in the Philippines. The development of that soundscape had been driven by active trading in Asia before the arrival of Ferdinand Magellan.
Trade was very important in pre-Hispanic times because without the trade, there could have been no gongs and two-string lutes, 𝗎𝗏𝗄. These are two most important pre-Hispanic music. Then came the Spaniards, and they brought with them, of course, not just Christianity, but really the Christian culture. And along with it, the diatonic harps, the guitar.
In the 16th century, the guitar was not yet fully developed as we know it today. Its evolution, much like our pre-Hispanic instruments, followed the movements of people, often triggered by explorations, trade, spreading of beliefs, and war throughout history. Before the Spanish guitar gained popularity in Europe, the Arab oud was introduced to Spain in the 8th century. It served as the predecessor of the fretted European lute and Renaissance guitars, including the vihuela and guitarra. One could argue that the diversity of guitar styles stems from the influence of local music, playability, and the innovative approaches that musicians bring to the instrument in various countries. Thus, there is a noticeable overlap of these instruments with multiple variations at a time when the guitar reached Manila. A 1784 document recorded the arrival of two guitars under the name of Don Joseph Mijares. This is the earliest primary records the archives could find, clearly showing guitarra on the inventory of cargoes from Acapulco aboard a frigate named San Jose. The microfiche copy is a reproduction of the original records from the Aduana de Manila or Manila Customs. An even earlier primary source that researchers often cite is a 1734 hydrographical and cartographical map of the Philippine Islands by Jesuit cartographer Pedro Morillo Velarde. The U.S. Library of Congress reproduction of the map, engraved by Nicolas de la Cruz Bagay, depicted a kumintang dance, accompanied by a guitarist. The guitar form in the depiction looked similar to a viola di mano or vihuela di mano, popular plucked instruments in Europe at that time.
There has been an introduction of the guitar itself, but what type of guitar was it would be very difficult to ascertain at this point because of the lack of description.
The University of Santo Tomas Associate Professor Maria Alexandra 𝗎𝘂𝗎, who studies the impact of the galleon trade in reshaping the Philippine music, wrote that music, more than language, became the entry point for missionaries in reaching out to the natives.
My research on the cantorales of Bohol actually proved that this particular cantoral music tradition started during the galleon, and based on documents, the galleons have played a very important role in the dissemination of this kind of music.
Yeah, music in the Spanish period is basically based on a different tonal system. We call it melodic harmonic style, meaning it's melody accompanied by harmony, and we're talking about notes, a different tonal system as opposed to pre-Hispanic, which systems are not quite understood even until now, but different system. Like you can have 5-note scale music based on pentatonic, but not all. There's 3-note music, 4-note music. So you have different non-tonal systems.
You have masses, you have motets. So these are Western music genres that have been brought here, and the natives have been trained to sing these kinds of songs.
During the time, the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade facilitated this transformation. Through the galleon trade, missionaries brought the European Catholic infrastructure to the Philippines, introducing religious teachings, skilled church builders, and pipe organs. The trade also facilitated the introduction of cantorial music, used in liturgical recitations and rituals. And trainers taught the natives how to read, sing, and play musical notes, leaving a lasting impact on the country's music.
If you would look at the musical characteristics of the music, it's in 3/4 time, and you have an arch melody, and it's usually in C major, F major, G major. If you would look at these specific characteristics, you see this also in our folk song. Like for example, bahay, kubo, kahit, it's tam, pam, 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 pam. That's the rhythm that you see, 3/4 time in some of the music of the cantorales. So you see this link, you see this connection.
Folk music and dance as we know today are usually accompanied not by the guitar as depicted in the 1700s, but by the Philippine rondalla, an ensemble of string instruments.
It was not just the guitar that was imported. I forgot to mention the bandurria. It must have been called like bandola, passing through Latin America. Then later in 19th century, that became the rondalla. I mean, rondalla with the octavina, laud I think comes second, octavina and the bajo de uñas. So all these are European instruments, but it was disseminated in the country for over 300 years, and you can just expect that through that we incorporated because of the length of time, by which it was being used. And until now, it has become like a national symbol.
Throughout our colonial history, the guitar was not widely used to accompany liturgical music. It remained on the peripheries of Catholic Church historical accounts. However, its portability and ease of learning to play made the guitar very popular among the common people, and its production could be scaled up quickly to meet the rising demand. Mactan in Cebu is a well-known place for manufacturing good quality guitars. However, it remains an enigma how it became a guitar-making hub.
Di man dili magsilbi og ang dadon nimo ang factory or workers dadon nimo in other parts. Di gid, wa gid anhir gid dinhi sa Cebu. Unya dili pud sa whole Cebu, anhir gid sa Lapu-Lapu. Mactan Island, anhir gid Mactan Island. Pagdakag workers dito Manila, dili man magdugay, manguli.
The guitar-making skills of these workers have been handed down from generation to generation.
Mga 18 pa, nanan gitara diri. Kay si Papa, 1923 man. Ang iya pong mga gitkanan, nakahimo naman. Dapat mga 1890s kapin ba?
Even today, crafting guitars remains a cherished family tradition. This musical instrument has become so deeply interwoven in society, but it was only during the Second Vatican Ecumenical Council in 1967 that the Church officially began using the guitar to accompany liturgical music.
Technically, the church organ is the accepted instrument to accompany the celebration of our liturgies in the church. But owing to the importance of guitar in our culture as Filipinos, then it has become accepted as well as an accompaniment for our liturgical celebrations. And syempre, for us missionaries, guitar is the most practical instrument to be used in our missions, especially in far-flung areas where, of course, we cannot bring the organ in.
Very festive po, very lively yung mass kapag rondalya yung naka-assign sa mass. So they keep on coming talaga. Actually, binabalikan din po talaga, even the foreigners po.
The history of the guitar in the Philippines narrates a story of musical resilience and cultural convergence. From ancient roots to the influences of the galleon trade, intricately woven into our nation's heritage. It symbolizes the universal language of music that unites us and inspires the preservation of our cultural legacy, shaping a harmonious future for the Filipino people. This history is something worth learning about.
Round of applause for that video. So, nindot ko no, Dr. Jojo Benconsejo said, nindot kay mong discussion dito. So daghang salamat. So we cannot really put in a 10-minute video everything about the guitar. So it's just really something like a synopsis, or it doesn't capture everything, but at least we tried to get the historical journey, the context of the guitar, the importance of learning about it. But of course, you have heard it's very interesting, right? When it was mentioned there that the natives in our archipelago, the people in our archipelago could make love just through the string instrument. Just by playing that string instrument, they could make love. And it's very evil for the missionaries and the Spaniards. So they really studied our native string instruments for them to be able to introduce their own instruments. So now we would like to, by the way, to know more about that, bang. So to know more about that, you have actually some books that are not available. So the Barangay by William Henry Scott. We have also a discussion about the music in our archipelago when they came here in the 16th century. This is in the Baxter Codex, and this is available at Pamgrass Basahanan. So, of course, we have also this, because the one who translated, it's very hard to translate the Spanish document from the National Archives. We had to look for someone who could translate it, and we are very thankful to Miss Azucena Pase, who worked, she is from the Laget of Barili. Barili, Silingan, Silingan. So she is from Barili, and she worked in the Philippine Embassy in Spain for more than 30 years, and she has already translated some Spanish documents. That's why she's very helpful, because, of course, the National Archives couldn't translate the document for us. We asked for documents in the galleon trade, the shipment. So that was 1784. So if we could, if kami lang ang, I would read it, I can't recognize that it's dos guitarras, and that's 1784. So Miss Azucena Pase is the author of this book. So she translated a Spanish document about the Diocese of Cebu. So this is Diocese de Cebu in Las Islas Filipinas, 1886. So a survey of what was and what is the Diocese of Cebu in the Philippine Islands, by Felipe Redondo y Sendino. So this is also available at Pamgrass Basahanan. Look for it. So you would know the history of the church in Cebu in the 1800s. So now we would like to, so dugay na 1 hour na tanong. So karon, so we would now like to ask these questions from our resource persons. So first, we would like to, you have seen him in the video, but we would like him to tell us more details about the history of our string instruments. So we have Dr. Jose Jojo Buenconsejo to tell us. We would like Dr. Jojo, we would like you to describe the lute in the proto-historic period among indigenous groups in the Visayan Islands, as witnessed by Father Francisco Alsina.
Can I borrow the higalong?
Higalong, yes. Higalong. So the higalong, sige, kinilang.
Ako na lang po.
Ayaw lang, lain. So the higalong, the 2-string lute of the Tibuli, is available also at our gift shop, Sinugatan Gifts from Cebu. Please show Dr. Jojo.
There's a study of music instruments called organology, and kini siya nga indigenous instrument, Philippine instrument, and the Western guitar are both called lutes, no? Pero lahi kayo ni siya sa Western guitar, and I mentioned it in the documentary earlier. Lahi kayo kay duhara ang strings, ang usa ka string mag-play og drone, steady continuous sound, upper string sa Maguindanao, no? But this higalong is from the Tibuli. And the other instrument, the other string, 2-string lute siya, the other string plays the melody. So melody and drone, or drone and melody. So ang texture, or the way music is organized, is entirely different from the Western guitar, which is melodic harmonic instrument. Okay, the guitar can play Kaskas, which is chords, which is harmony, but it can also be played by plucking it. So we have the melody, no? So the guitar, in terms of its capacity, in terms of what music can it play, entirely different. But we imagine that there is somehow a connection, but actually there's no connection. In the Visayan region, this was eradicated because it was associated with entertainment music, with a couple, a man playing this, and a woman playing the bamboo cedar, polychordal cedar. In Alsina, it's called korlong. And this instrument can speak, meaning listeners, when the pieces are played, they can hear words. So and then the woman will respond to that. And in the bamboo instrument, korlong, they can also listen to what the woman is speaking. So, which So the missionary, do I continue? I think
Yes.
parang nasa question na yung second yung ano.
You just
So
continue.
so there was a missionary coming in Borongan, Samar, or maybe Carigara, Waray speaking region north of Tacloban, kasi that's where Francisco Ignacio Alcina, the 17th century Jesuit, were assigned. No, so he was there, and then she described the documentation of this instrument and the together with the bamboo instrument. But actually, Alcina, being a white man, they had a policy before that the missionaries were never to mix with the indigenous community because they were afraid. There were very few, and the natives were kind of hostile because it was yet beginning. So Alcina's description is perhaps very inaccurate. She heard it from a woman confessing to her that when they listen to this, their emotions are melted away. So parang merong sensuous element ang ang instrument, ang music na ito. So parang naano sa erotics that the priest parang really discourage this kind of music making at home, no? But if we reflect on this instrument today, it's no longer practiced, but it's quite vividly remembered by the indigenous non-Christian Filipinos. Many of them have been converted to Christianity already, but they still remember this being played the same today, but similar to what Alcina had written in his book, no, Father Alcina. So Father Alcina, I claim in an article which I published recently, his description were made indirectly when he would not observe it, but from a woman who confessed to her what is the meaning of this, and his impression, since he was a priest and he had a different concept of different worldview, so he thought that this was so sensuous and should not be encouraged because of that religious constraint. He was into converting the natives, so he was into creating a new idea about what is good. So this indigenous instrument eventually died out, no? But today, it's still being practiced in Mindanao because there are some people there who had less contacts with the outside world. Now, I call this proto-historic instrument, but we should be careful in using the word proto-historic as if yung mga tao sa Mindanao are less than, they are in the lower level kasi parang uncivilized sila. No, this is a living tradition for Filipinos who resisted, who went against the conversion and tried to assert their identity, no? And right now, we're glad that they resisted because they had their own, uh, uh, um, they had some kind of a strength, or a clear image of who they are, your identity nila. Now, back in Cebu, so maybe from the 17th century on, the vihuela went out of favor. The word for Western guitar, so we were now colonized. So we had the colonial experience already. So little by little, the kudyapi and the kurlong, the indigenous instruments, went out of favor, and Western guitar became more acceptable. I mean, incorporated by the native cultures of the Visayas. So, uh, so we had things like balitaw. Balitaw is accompanied by the guitar. The guitar is really a very good instrument because it's portable guitar. So our balitaw tradition song debate between man and woman is accompanied by the guitar. So instead of uh, the the earlier lute, this is called a lute because it has a neck, similar to the guitar. So the old pre-Hispanic instruments died out in the Visayan areas, and the guitar rose in prominence, and there were new forms. There were new forms that evolved out of our colonial experience, and one of these is the balitaw. But balitaw, as we know, can have I, it,
for sharing with us about the Tibuli um, Higalong. So of course, aside from the Higalong, so we have also in the beginning when we had our countdown, we showed to you the this is the Subin. So according also to Father Francisco Alcina or even the Baxter Codex, that they could also talk with this. I mean, they could communicate through just playing this. And it still happens until today. So it's very amazing that our ancestors and even the indigenous peoples today can communicate through music. They would know what the other person is trying to communicate. So the curator at the Cagayan de Oro Museum, who also immersed among the Higaunon in Bukidnon, told me, he showed to me how to play this. I don't know how to play this. And then they could also have hand gestures that would say, we go to let's meet in the river. So that's why in my interaction at that video at the start, yeah, when the kubing maker, after he made it, he played this, and then he was playing. I didn't know. I said I didn't know what he meant with this, what he played about, what he communicated with me. Of course, maybe he did not ask me to go to the river, because of course the Tibuli is at the Lake Cebu, right? So, daghang salamat to Dr. Jojo for discussing also, because he also immersed among the indigenous peoples in Mindanao. And so there are interaction from our audience. Fe Balanta says, Diyos marhay na hapon. So this is for Maestro Dani. Raul Gabriel Buzon saying, good afternoon. I'm monitoring from BLP Commercial and will be on site later. Janet says, watching from Aguho Elementary School. And TG Tolet says, it's an honor to be here, and he is on site. Si TG Tolets. And Judelin Taghoy says, good afternoon. So online. So we have also online watching other Janet Diego Rodora Reyes. Yes, daghang salamat for joining us. So now our next question for Dr. Jojo Buenconsejo. He already gave us a bit of an introduction about this. So please tell us more about this transculturation. This is, of course, a big word for us who are not musicologists. So how was the Iberian guitar, and why is it called Iberian guitar, incorporated into our islands?
Transculturation is a cultural process. Ano bang unsa may mahitabo nimo o ikaw tagaguwa niya, you meet someone, the people who have a different culture for you. So ang transculturation is a concept where there is a mixing ng local culture o ang tagaguwa nga culture. So trans meaning it's a culture that goes beyond the one culture. It's somehow a negotiated culture between two people who have different cultures, but somehow they have to live peacefully together. So ang transculturation is very pertinent sa places na gitawag og contact zone. And Cebu was a contact zone, and we've always been like that because we've been open to world commerce, and there are people coming in. So there's a degree of mixing between the indigenous Cebuano and the outsider. So kung imong atong balikon ang balitaw, giunsa ka na siya pagkuano, most likely ang balitaw was, since it was more secular, not connected with the cantorales, that music that was played in the church. It was played as a celebration during marriage feast and fiesta. So how did it develop? I think the guitar was very important kasi the guitar is the backbone para ma-construct ang improvised verses, ang balitaw. But we know that balitaw is very similar to pantun in Malaysia, which they have until now. But ang pantun, ang pantun sa Malaysia is ano rin siya, rhymed verses alternating with one another. But since Malaysia is an Islamic country, So, na-influence sila sa Islamic culture. So, ang panto nila is like religious poetry. Ang balitaw nato is actually about verses about love, about life, about work, no? Pero wala na may balitaw ron. Wala kay it has been supplanted since the 1920s with new forms of music, no? So again, when the recording industry came in, another transcultural process, many of our folk songs gi-record sa mga recording companies, and then we have 𝗵𝘀𝗶𝗵, who was a radio announcer. The radio came in 1920s, 30s, 50s, 60s. So there was a new medium but the guitar was always there. The harana was adapted to that. So nawala na ang balitaw, pero naagyapo ng gitara. Really, the guitar no, is more a cultural symbol of being Cebuano. It's a cultural icon of our identity. That's why I'm so happy na we're discussing this now. No? So there was some kind of a mixing between Spanish and local sa transcultural music. Nanara sa, dili na nato i-complicate.
So, daghang salamat, Dr. Jojo. So, we would like to remind you that as we go along, those online, if you have questions, you would read them immediately as we go along. And for those on site, you can also write your questions at our Facebook Live event right now at Pamgar sa Cebu Heritage Hotel. And we also have a portion after the reaction from our audience. We will have those who want to ask their questions. So we will have an open forum with just 2 or 3 questions from the audience, because we will also have the Guitar Foundation of the Philippines and also another musician, 𝗵𝘀𝗶𝗏 musician, also a tour guide, Paul, who will also play for us. So now we would like to ask this question for our historian, also a historian who studied on the galleon trade, and she is based in Mexico right now, although she teaches at the University of the Philippines, also Diliman. So we would like to ask Dr. Cristel Obispado to tell us how the galleon trade facilitated cultural exchanges among countries such as Spain, the countries in Latin America, and the Philippines. So this is Dr. Cristel.
We have to remember that the majority of the crew aboard the galleon were native Filipinos, and they helped facilitate the cultural exchange aboard the galleon in terms of gastronomy, vocabularies, music, and other material cultures. And for example, in our everyday vocabulary, we find words derived from indigenous American languages. So if you're familiar with cacahuate, cacao, calachuchi, camote, chile, chico, chocolate, cigarillo, loro, mais, tobacco, and mani, these words were not Filipino terms, no? They were derived from Spanish American languages, or sorry, from Native American languages such as Nawa and Maya.
So daghang salamat, Dr. Cristel. So actually, Dr. Cristel has a long discussion about that. And she also mentioned that the first galleon actually sailed from Cebu. And so many crew in the galleon were Visayans. And I even asked her, of course, the Visayans were seafarers, we were sea pirates. So we were creating already, we were boat builders already. So she said that there are so many, when she tried to look at the names of those crew in the galleons, so many were Visayans. And I told her that we will have another discussion about that in the future regarding the boat building, the maritime tradition in the Visayas. So now we would like, so Dr. Cristel says there are so many cultural influences transferred, or there were so many cultural exchanges brought or as an effect of the galleon trade, because of course, according also to Dr. David Irving, it is a reference by Dr. 𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗀. So we have it later at Pamgras Basahanan at our bookshop. The Colonial Counterpoint, I was not able to bring my copy. So the Colonial Counterpoint is a very good book that traces the music history in our islands. And also, of course, according to Dr. Cristel, so there are words that are Spanish words that we are using right now. Have you heard that also, have you seen that video today? I saw it in Facebook about why is it that only the Philippines is a Spanish colony that is not speaking Spanish. So maybe we will have that as another discussion in the future during Language Month. So we have this question for Dr. Sandy Chua. So from the UST Research Center for Culture, Arts, and Humanities. So we would like to ask her, actually, so that was why I mentioned Dr. Irving, because Dr. Sandy Chua and Dr. Cristel Obispado, they all referred to the book by Dr. David Irving, Colonial Counterpoint, saying that because of the galleon trade, Manila became the first global city. So the first global city is Manila. So now we would like to have Dr. Sandy Chua discuss how did the galleon trade facilitate the introduction of Western music to our islands. So this is Dr.
Okay,
Sandy.
so how did the Manila Galleon facilitated the interchange, of cultures from the Americas to the Philippines? It's since the galleon trade would actually pass through the different areas. If you would see the the path of the galleon trade, it would stop, for in Singapore or sometimes in Hong Kong, in Vietnam, and then go to the Philippines. So here they have actually the goods that changes the commodities actually of this particular trade. It's actually galleon trade. It's a trade route, but it's not only commodities or objects that are uh, that actually have been affected by this, because as you will see, the galleon trade also carried missionaries who came to the Philippines, and with this they stayed in the Philippines and established the missions here in the Philippines, and from there they introduced actually Western music to the natives here, and even put up some schools. So they started training children and others in their in Western music, and practically it started transculturation, wherein we have appropriated much of their music.
So daghang salamat, Dr. Sandy. So Dr. Sandy has written about the music of the galleons. So it is an article, but she has this book. She really studied the music in Baclayon in Bohol. So she wrote about the music of the galleon, and one of which is the cantorales, and she mentioned villancico. And so she has this book, The Hispanic Sacred Music in 19th Century Bohol, Philippines. And this is available at our Pamgras bookshop. so this is so you see here some really the pieces, and then also the very important in our history. So you would know the sacred music here. So next we would like to ask Dr. Cristel Obispado. She is based in Mexico, regarding the music influences that the Philippines got from Mexico through the galleon trade. So this is Dr.
Well,
Cristel.
I'm not an expert in music history, no, but there's a book by David Irving who wrote on that topic, and he he emphasized for music, no, because your topic is actually Cebu guitar, no. So he emphasized that silver and silk, the main products of the galleon trade, were also vital, no, in producing musical accessories such as strings for guitars and harps. And during the 17th century, Filipinos opted for twisted silk strings instead of gut strings or the dried intestines of animals. And surprisingly, these silk strings, which were imported from China, produce a pleasing sound comparable to the traditional ones. And additionally, the Chinese manufactured metal strings, including silver wire, which offered musicians diverse tonal options. And then we also have the Mexican bandurria, no, which found its way to the Philippines through the galleon trade. And although it originated in Spain, the bandurria actually gained popularity in Spanish in Latin America, particularly in Mexico and Peru, influencing their musical traditions. Its introduction to the Philippines via Mexico led to the addition of extra strings compared to the European version of bandurria, and became instrumental in shaping the Philippine rondalia, no, a black string ensemble. Beside musical instruments, the religious missionaries requested musical items such as harps, guitars, lyres, cornets, organs, and even music books to be transported to the Philippines via the galleons. And well, of course, no, they facilitated the cultural exchange of music knowledge and enriched the musical culture of the islands. Furthermore, skilled craftsmen, including the makers of musical instruments, began arriving from Mexico uh, in the 16th century, contributing to the development of local craftsmanship.
Salamat, Dr. Cristel. So she mentioned about the musical instruments coming in from Spain to Mexico, like the bandurria, coming into the Philippines through the galleon trade, and even craftsmen. So there were Mexican craftsmen who crafted the bandurria and also were able to come to our islands. So if you have questions, actually there are questions, but Dr. Jojo would answer this later when it's his turn to share with us about some questions that we prepared for him. So the question, we would take note of this. Maybe it would be buried in in the comment section here. So this is not a question, Mayong Hapon from Carmelita de Haresco. And also Judeline says the guitar is usually used as an accompaniment for music or for vocal music. So Celestino Macachor, he is an author about Arnis also. He is an Arnis practitioner, an Arnis grandmaster. And his question is this, but later we will take note of this. How much has Southern Spain guitar music like the flamenco influenced Filipino music like the kundiman? So this would be later. And there is another question, who introduced ukulele in the Philippines and Cebu in particular. Dr. Jojo would be sharing about that later. And Judeline says we are astronicians. And bandurria is a 14-string musical instrument played before in public schools. So dagang salamat for all your comments and interaction. So now we know that you are not just here physically, but you are here mentally because you are interacting even through the comment section. So some of these are online only, not here, right? Yes, and some are here on site. Dahil salamat. So now I know you would like to hear also this Filipino American. His father was an American, his mother a Filipino, but then we were not able to put it to share with you the clip. But he mentioned that why he went to Mexico, because Our Lady of Guadalupe, he had a dream with Our Lady of Guadalupe and that he had to go to Mexico. That's why he is in Mexico, and he is a choir director there. And so we would like to ask, and he is recommended by the Philippine Embassy in Mexico to help us to be a resource person also about the galleon trade with music. and also Mexican culture in relation to Philippine culture. So we would like to ask Maestro Danny Camara to tell us about what he knows, what you know about the cultural exchanges facilitated by the galleon trade.
One of the very interesting things is the sailors on the boat from Mexico to Acapulco were Mexicans, either mestizos or indigenous people. And then the officials, who were the governor generals and the archbishops and the friars, were all Spaniards, but many of them had already lived a long time in Mexico. And then the other interesting thing is on the way back from Manila to Acapulco, all the sailors were Filipinos. So one of the very interesting things is the Mexicans who came to the Philippines left some very profound customs. Many Filipinos call their fathers tatay and their mothers nanay. Those two words come from the Nahuatl language, which is a language, an indigenous language still spoken in central Mexico, and which was the language of the Aztecs who had their empire based in what is now Mexico City.
Daghang salamat, Maestro Danny. So he mentions also that Mexicans were also the crew in the galleons. So, and there are words that are Mexicans that and also used here in the Philippines. So we would now like to ask again Dr. 𝗪𝗏𝗏 regarding how the European musical instruments were introduced to the Philippines.
Century, the castañuelas or castanets, they were introduced to the Philippines, and the Tagalog people quickly embraced these products. Similarly, among the Ilocano community, the arpa, or harp, gained popularity in the 16th century. So as early as 16th century, we were talking about this early period. They witnessed a Spanish soldier skillfully playing the harp, and then they fell in love with it, and they adapted the musical instrument. The harpa involved plucking strings, and it's reminiscent of our indigenous musical instrument called kutiapi, but it possesses a distinct appearance and sound. So that's why we use the term harp, and we use the term castañuela. But when European instruments resembled indigenous ones, the tendency was to use the indigenous terms, instead of the European term. As we've seen in the Tagalog term 𝗙𝗡𝗋𝒋𝒋. 𝗙𝗋𝒋𝒋 was used for both the flute and European recorder, or flauta, or flute. So even if they were actually playing flute in the church, the act was called nagbabangsi. And then another example was lantoy. Lantoy was a Visayan instrument being played with nostrils and used for funerals, among the native population. But later, the term was also used to refer to the to the Castilian recorder or flute because of their similarity. And then to quote David Irving, he said indigenous texts were being used. Indigenous texts were being sung to European melodies, and Christian texts to indigenous melodies. Or sometimes local materials were used to fabricate European instruments. We use the local woods in making indigenous as well as European instruments. As an example, we have for European pipe organs, we use bamboo, and for choir books, we use the carabao hides.
Daghang salamat to the Dr. 𝗪𝗏𝗏. So she also discussed how the harp was introduced in Manila, or in Luzon. So now we would like to ask Dr. Sandy Chua, because she was telling us about her study about the cantorales in Bohol. So the church music in the 19th century in Bohol. So we would like Dr. Sandy Chua to tell us more about these cantorales and the instruments used in cantorales.
Okay, the main instrument that's used to accompany the cantoral is actually the pipe organ. if you would see the I did study the cantorales. You have also in Cebu there are some cantorales that I found, but not as big large format as the one in Bohol. But there are music that has actually very close relation with the cantorales when I was in Cebu, in southern Cebu. And I think Patricia would have done some of the research on this. Now, the main instrument that actually accompanies the the music of the choir books of sacred choir books of Bohol that dates back in the 18th and early 19th century is the pipe organ. There were also in their records, such as the Libro de Inventario and then the Libro de Recibo e Gasto, instruments such as violin, violon, or shom, chirimías have been accompanying the music of this church music of that particular time. Even fagotes, or you have trompetas, trompas, but not the guitar. I think the guitar is not used to accompany music of the church.
Maraming salamat, Dr. Sandy. So the guitar is not used in the church. So I chanced upon this article when I googled the Cebu guitar, and there was an article early this year that said that the guitar was used for gospel music. So we need to review our writers. We should research more. So it's actually in a local paper. So because it's in a local paper, maybe people would be kind of thinking that it's a fact, because they presented it as a fact that the guitar was used in gospel music in the Spanish period. So anyway, so we have seen that even Maestro Danny Camara, I was not able to put it there. He was at first he thought, and then he thought that the guitar was. He said that the guitar was used in the church in Mexico, but when I told him that there is another research also by Dr. Sandy, and then Maestro Danny said, yes, it's only in after the Vatican II that the guitar is used in the church. So now we need to correct our facts, because some would say that the guitar was made in Cebu because the friars want it to be used inside the church. So our tour guide should now know how to discuss the guitar. Thank you very much. So, we would like to ask Dr. Sandy also, how important was church music in the Spanish period?
So music was an important tool that was used by the missionaries or the religious to evangelize the people. So it becomes very difficult if you would teach them, for example, to read the book in Spanish. It becomes very difficult. But for them, it's easier to evangelize them, for them to learn, for example, uh, um, the the Hail Mary or the Our Father through music. So it was a tool that was used by the religious to facilitate the evangelization process.
So daghang salamat to Dr. Sandy. So it's for music is for evangelization. So I read like Father Francisco Alcina said that when they would play music in the church, the women would be so moved. So, but David Irving, the author of Colonial Counterpoint, expressed it so harshly, Dr. Jojo, like he said, we were colonized. The Filipinos, the people in the archipelago, was colonized not by religion but by music. It is through music that we were colonized. So maybe Dr. Jojo can say something about that later. So I would like to ask Dr. Sandy, because Dr. Jojo already mentioned this about how the korlong of the woman and the kuchapi of the man would be able to say words through just playing it, and would be making love, like Father Francisco Alcina in other translation said that they would make love through the musical instruments, and the woman would get sexual pleasure just by listening to the string instrument being played. So I'm asking now Dr. Sandy Chua to describe, to explain more about the evil characteristics of the string instruments of the Visayans. It's so evil for the missionaries. It's not good. They said we cannot do anything good. We always like the Visayans always like sex. so so Dr. Sandy I will ask Dr. Sandy to talk about.
Okay, I think it's not only our string instrument, but event also in the West. This you have this tradition of the troubadours and the trouvers, wherein they were traveling minstrels with their, of course, with their viols, with their string instrument, and going into this traveling, singing, poetry, and most of that texts are actually profane in a way. So the string instruments, most of the, especially maybe the guitar or the guitarra has been associated with something that's profane. So that's why it gives more strong evidence that they were not used in the church. Why? Because according to them, instrumental music arouses, it brings sensual something, arousal to women of that time. So they try to not uh, to not play any instrument at all. But considering that after a while, they have, if you would look at the history, for example, of Western music from Renaissance, from medieval and the Renaissance, there were no instruments being used in the church. It's only vocal music because of that. But at the end of the Renaissance, towards the Baroque period, instrumental music became an important development. No, they started composing instrumental music, and then eventually it entered into the church, but very limited as well. So they the very important, I think, and this has been adopted also in the Philippines, is that the pipe organ has been really the instrument of the church. You would see almost in all churches, for example, in Europe, and this has been also introduced here in the country. Pipe organ would be there, and then the violins, and the flute, because of the rise of the orchestra. But the guitar, as what we've seen, has been more in the folk side, or in the secular side, and it's not usually used in the church. But because of changes that happened, like for example in the 20th century, and the guitar being a very important instrument that accompanies vocal music, then we see it now being used as well in the church.
Dahil salamat to Dr. Sandy for her sharing about why is it the string instruments are not used at first in the church. So it's very profane, it's secular. Of course, in the among the natives, it arouses the women. So of course the women they had already sex revolution at that time. They had sex education as early as 6 years old. The babaylanes would already I would speak in Bisaya na lang so that Facebook wouldn't tag this as adult content. So, so the babaylanes would already have education on sex and physical intimacy with even though the girls as early as 6 years old, and they are taught how to use the ring, the ring and the pin. Unsa man ni? The male reproductive organ ring, it's actually asulti na bahalag matag na lang ni penis pin and the penis ring. So they were already taught, so the women were so they have what dili na sila kinahanglan magpa-therapy for sexual therapy at that time. The babaylanes were very good in teaching them how to be well educated sexually. so so uh so now we are asking, so mahuman na ta atong the profane, the evil string instruments of the natives. So we are asking Maestro Danny Camara to tell us more about what he knows about the musical situation in colonial Mexico, the Spanish time Mexico, and the Spanish time Philippines.
I would like to talk basically about three aspects of music in the Philippines during the colonial time that came from Mexico. First of all, the Spanish established in Mexico in three of the main cathedrals in the city of Mexico, Mexico City, the city of Puebla, and the city of Oaxaca. They were the three great cathedrals, and they brought the Spanish Catholic liturgical music tradition to those cathedrals. So the great Spanish composers from the 15th and 16th century had their music sung in those cathedrals. Now, when the Franciscans and Augustinians, Jesuits, and Dominicans left Acapulco to go to Manila, they brought that musical tradition with them. And the three main cathedrals in the Philippines during Spanish times were Manila, Cebu, and what was called La Nueva Cáceres, which is Naga in Bicol. And so the tradition of this great Spanish liturgical music, which was in the Mexican cathedrals, was brought to the Filipino cathedrals. Unfortunately, with the destruction of Intramuros in World War II, many, many manuscripts were lost, and we can only guess exactly what music was in those cathedrals. Now, something really important, there is a kind of song in Mexico called villancico. And a villancico now in Mexico is a Christmas song. But originally, villancicos were any kind of religious song sung outside the cathedrals in Spain. And these villancicos were accompanied by secular instruments, above all by guitar. So this tradition of religious songs sung outside the cathedral was brought to Mexico, and many villancicos were written during the Spanish colonial time in Mexico. And these villancicos were often in Spanish and in indigenous languages, above all Nahuatl. This tradition of villancico then was taken to the Philippines, to Cebu and to Manila and to Naga, and these villancicos were sung as well in the Philippines. And Filipinos themselves began to write their own villancicos. Now here's a very interesting historical data. One of the most famous Mexican poets was a religious nun named Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, who lived in a convent in Mexico City during the 17th century. Sor Juana wrote many villancicos which were set to music and sung in the Mexico City Cathedral. It turns out through investigations that some historians have done, these very same villancicos that Sor Juana wrote for Mexico were rapidly taken by the galleon to Manila and were sung in Manila only a year or two after she wrote them in Mexico City. So when these villancicos were sung in the Philippines, they were accompanied by guitars. So obviously the friars of whatever order brought the guitars, and they were used both, as I said, in Manila, in Cebu, and in Naga.
Salamat to Maestro Danny. So the villancico, so for the Mexicans, of course, like rondalla, they would pronounce it as rondalla. So because we are Filipinos, we would pronounce it as villancico and rondalla, pero they would pronounce it as rondalla and villancico. So the villancico was also actually discussed by Dr. Sandy, but we finished showing the clips. We talked with her for an hour. We only showed you 4 clips of our interview with Dr. Sandy. And she mentioned that villancico, some examples are, she said, ang Pasko ay sumapit. So, ang Pasko ay sumapit, mo na siya ang kasadya ning taknaa. So, it's a Visayan, Cebuano, Visayan song. And it's a villancico song. It's a folk song. So, it is, she says that the genre of the ang Pasko ay sumapit, so sa ato na is kasadya ning taknaa, it is a villancico genre. It's a villancico genre, but of course, it is the villancico is the only folk song, the secular, usually secular song that is allowed to be played but outside the church. So according to Dr. Santi. So now we go back online, on site, our in-person panelists who has to answer so many questions from you. And then take note of those questions. And there is also an additional question from our on-site audience. There is a question online from 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗧𝗏. I remember 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗧𝗏 is a winner of one of our trivia quiz before, one of our trivia quizzes. And his question is this: I have heard once with the galleon trade, the major export was the tuba that threatened the Spanish wine. Tuba is still produced in parts of Mexico. Magdi ka tubag si Kuan ani. I wonder if Filipino music instruments made way also to Latin America, especially Mexico. So before I would ask Dr. Jojo later. So Maestro Danny was telling us in our interview with him that the Filipinos actually brought the tuba to Mexico. And the Filipinos were the ones who taught, we don't know, we have to confirm, we were the ones who taught them how to process their wine into tequila. So, so Maestro Dari was saying that the Mexicans owe their tequila to the Filipinos. So grabe kay hinumay tuba gyud ni Tagay. So ang Tagay abot sa Mexico nahimong tequila. So according to Maestro Dani. So they have another question. I guess this is a question that Dr. Jojo would answer. Who played the guitar most during the Spanish colonial time? Male or female, especially in schools? Was playing musical instrument part of the curriculum then? So we would like to ask this first to Dr. Jojo before we ask him about these other questions.
You know, the guitar was
yes.
Who played most?
Who were in the music schools? Was it the male or the female? And then who played the guitar, the male or the female? From Ferdinand Aparticio on site.
I respond to this first.
Yes.
You know, guitar was not in Spanish education until like 1860s or 1893. You know, the curriculum was classic, meaning they were taught how elocution. That's why they have moro. Guitar was not. It might be, but it was not formally taught as a separate subject. You know, guitar and piano might be after 1860s when there was reform in public education in the Spanish colony. But there are so many errors in the previous discussion. I wish to go to that, but later
yes.
na.
Yes. So Dr. Jojo, there is this question regarding for you regarding to describe that we would like you to describe the guitar during the Spanish period, in how it was used in, for example, in folk festivals in Batangas and also in the romantic harana in the Visayas.
Subli is a devotional dance among the Batangueño during May in honor of the Santa Cruz, you know. So it's accompanied by a guitar in Kaskas style and a drum. So, but Batangueño are also famous for their kumintang, which some people say is archaic, so it's older. And is the predecessor of the kundiman. We have that in the textbook in 1926. No, kumintang is a dance, a couple dance, accompanied by the guitar, and the guitar can be in the kumintang style, which is in the picking style, you know, plucking style, and it's also strumming or kaskas. No, so that's the couple dance, which is quite, you know, in the Philippines there are so many couple dances accompanied by the guitar. Our version is actually not dance entirely, but song debate between man and woman, and that's the balita, also accompanied by the guitar. I've mentioned it already. But I'd like to correct the earlier comment about gospel music. You know, gospel music is American music, and it came only after the rock and roll revolution in the 1950s, wherein the evangelical churches would have rhythm and blues, the old rhythm and blues, not the R&B now. You know, gospel music is Afro-American music, and their worship was, especially the Southern Baptist. There are some people who encourages that kind of music in the church, but really, uh, uh, Dr. Chuba is correct when saying that the guitar is secular, meaning outside of the church, because the church would have the organs, you know, which can play sustained sound or wind instruments. But the guitar was also taught by the Spanish priest in order as a tool for learning music. And this is where the statement of David Irving comes, that, you know, we were colonized not so much by uh, militarily, but soft power, you know, teaching the music, and then you belong to that community. So anyway, during the Spanish period was really a period of great cultural transformation. Our indigenous traditions were transformed into new ones with the guitar, and the guitar has continued all throughout this time. You know, when the Americans came, they taught us, of course, jazz and guitar again, and then with all this, the blues, guitar again. You know, so the guitar has been continuous in our culture. That's all.
Dr. Jojo, please tell us more about the Harana tradition, the romantic Visayan romantic Harana.
Actually, harana is a general term. The romantic variety of harana is just one. We have manyanita, which is serenade, and it's not romantic. So harana is really a broad term. You know, when we honor someone, we'd like to a visitor, for instance, going into our place. We'd like to harana him because we'd like to serenade. We'd like to express our recognition of his presence. He's our katapat. He is there. So we'd like to honor by playing harana. Now, that's not harana. The romantic harana, however, may have evolved when the mass media came in. We can see this in 𝗵𝘀𝗀𝗃𝗀 play, Rosas Pangdan, 1928, which was about the conflict between Balitaw Romansada, which is some kind of a harana, but it's already composed song, no longer the Balitaw. The Balitaw was traditional, so improvised man and woman singing with the guitar. But with Balitaw Romansada, then we have Manuel Velez, sa Kabukiran, that's harana type, meaning it's romantic because it honors or it uh, or like like expressing a sentiment to a beloved, you know, more in the romantic style. So we have also the sorrowful ones. What's this?
Kundiman.
Pagkagarbuso ni aning. That's a romantic. That's Balitaw Romansada. It's all came from Balitaw, and then it became more Harana-like, you know. And then later on, we were introduced. We were watching the movies, and we always say music expressing the relation between a man and a woman. So that's the romantic Harana became more important. But we forget all the other Haranas. We still have Haranas in Manyanita, in like expressing our honoring a noble person. So we do a harana. That's harana in a broad sense. Okay. So I hope.
Daghang salamat, Dr. Jojo. So actually, Dr. Sandy Chua also told us about Dr. Hope Yu's presentation about the Cebuano genre, the Harana. So, but unfortunately, Dr. Hope was um, cannot make it in our interview with her. So we asked actually, because she has a presentation, so she traced it to the Las Mañanitas of Mexico. And then, so we asked the Mexico-based resource persons about the Las Mañanitas, and they said, yes, it's just like our Mañanita here, that at early morning, it's Las Mañanitas, it's early morning, so or chilly morning. So they would sing birthday song but it's not called harana there. There's no harana. Maestro Danny told me we were not able to give it to you in the clip. Harana, when the man would sing, the Manyanita has a one of the categories of Manyanita or the last Manyanitas is the serenata. When the man would go to under the window of the woman to sing for her, is a serenade. It's serenata in Mexico. And the harana with a J in Mexico, it's actually a musical instrument that is like it resembles a very small guitar. So harana is not harana here is the serenata in Mexico. And the harana with a J in Mexico is a kind of a musical instrument, a string like a guitar. So there needs to be more study about that. How is it that the harana with a J in Mexico became a harana with an H here, and it is now the serenata in Mexico is now a harana in the Philippines. So now we would like to ask our singer-songwriter 𝗏𝘂𝗧𝗏𝗏. So kay naman gyud mangharana diri ron. So may we show Romel. So Romel, we would like to ask you if you experienced doing harana, or do you know anyone to have done harana? Pwede ra magbisaya.
Actually, ang harana, no, mo to, ang harana sa to is kanamang adto ka sa mo kuan ka og babay, nya adto ka sa ilang bintana, dayon mo kanta ka, dayon bubuan ka og ihi. No, actually in my time sa pagkabatan-on ako na may kaabutan ng harana, no, because I think that was during the 60s siguro, 70s na siya, Dok, no, ang harana. But Doc, ang usahay ba, would you consider that one as harana? Yeah.
Harana, love songs. There is actually see, Dr. Hope, you explained it, that a harana is just like the song Carmela. There is actually a format, like an outline for it. The first part is you greet the tagbalay. The next is you already go up, or you want to go up, or something like that. So there is and then there's an ending. And then, kung Carmela, di ba, sana, kanang, dadun ko ikaw sa himayang dayon. I will bring you to forever. So we would like to ask Romel to play a song. But right now, di ba, usually harana is si Dr. Jojo kuno. May we show Dr. Jojo if a love song is just any love song can be a harana?
Yeah, ano? Dok, no?
Yeah.
Actually, usahay is harana, no? Actually, the only harana song I know is usahay.
Okay, so let's listen to Romel.
Nganong gitiaw-tiawan ang gugma ko kanimo da usahay magadamgo ako nga ikaw ug ako nagkahigugmaay nganong damguhon ko ikaw, damguhon sa kanunay sa akong kamingaw. Usahay magamahay ako, nganong nabuhi pa ning kalibutan, nganong gitiaw-tiawan ang gugma ko kanimo da.
Yes.
Daghang salamat.
Daghang salamat. Sharuno og dili makauyab si Romel ato when he would sing that in to Harana. So, ha? Magaw.
Bitaw no, murag tinuod gyud siya no kay ang babae basta imong kantahan melt gyud basta ang kantahan nimo. Tinuod gyud nga ang gitara na ay
But it's now different because in the past they would melt each other, di ba? Kay the man and the woman, the man and the woman both would be singing. So it's just like balitaw, it's an exchange. But so ang harana is just the man singing and hoping that the woman would melt. So it's a very beautiful Visayan song, Usahay. So for those online and those who are not Bisaya, we would like to tell you that the song it is roughly translated at sometimes I would dream that we love each other, and why are you making fun of my love for you? Yeah. Sometimes I would dream usahay nagadamgo ako nga ikaw ug ako nagkahigugma ay nganong gitiaw-tiawan ang gugma ko kanimo. Why are you making fun of my love that is only for you? O maura to. Then ang matud nila sad, so you have seen 𝗵𝗫𝗀𝗃 the UP Diliman guitar instructor. You have seen that in the video. The intro is also matud nila. It's also a classic song, the favorite songs of my father, Usahay and matud nila, and he would sing that with a guitar. So matud nila is also about, it's also harana. They say that you don't want my love because I don't have wealth and treasure that I can give you. So, hello. We have an open forum in a while. So this is, yes. We would, do we ask for the interaction now for the harana? Later na lang. Maybe he can speak for a few minutes. One interaction about the harana because this is still the harana. Please introduce yourself and please, yes, you can speak. Please show our audience who wants to interact regarding the harana.
Usagid ko sa natao sa harana, kay natao man ko sa bukid o natao sa baryo. Di gyud ka kapanguyab og babae og di ka maharana. Di ba? Maharana na gani mi.
Please introduce yourself.
Of course. I'm inspiration ko ustanan kay I'm Dr. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 I'm a doctor of medicine, doctor of philosophy, doctor of humanities, a writer, and I wrote a book about the Malay race. As a matter of fact, I have one book here. Maybe I'll give it to you so that you will be able to. I'd like to share what I wrote in my book. I wrote poetry, balak, kasaysayan sa Cebu, himo na ko balak.
Yes, please tell us about your experience in harana.
Okay, we'll tell you about the harana. Ganito, sa panahon na mo, nagani kay pasumbingayan nga imong mahigustuhan, ipasumbingay nimo pinaagi sa awit. Kumon kayo ng mga kanta nga, ani ay nagtuaw sa imong silong. Then, nasa kanta nga, Inday o katong kawang lang ang tanan lumalabay daw aso. Ano? Then nasa kanta nga kani usahay liter na ni wala na kani adto sa among panahon. Kanang matud nila gikompose na ni 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 siya gikompose niya na matud nila. Kining Carmila, dugay-dugay na. I think si Minggoy Lopez.
Ruby.
Minggoy Lopez, kang Ruby, si Kuan, katong
Vicente
kasadya
Ruby
ning
for
tanan.
Carmela.
Kasadya ning takna. Nga
Vicente
giangkon
Ruby also.
ni Celerio sa Manila, imo nila Kuan. Ubay-ubay, mga maayong kanta.
Daghang salamat, Dr. Warfe. I have read about you. When we were researching for Tupas, I saw that you are a descendant of Dato Tupas of the Mactan Island. I know here, Cebu. Tupas is in Cebu. So thank you very much for coming here and joining our event, tracing our string instruments in our islands. So now we would go back to humana naman ang sample ni Romel. So he will sing for us again. Mangharana na sad siya sa ato later. And then so we have Dr. Jojo Vinconseo again to tell us about how local commerce disseminated the guitar as a souvenir. There was a question a while ago regarding the ukulele. And so please tell us about this, Dr. Jojo.
You know, I remember because I studied high school in Manila, and there was a time when everywhere we ride a boat in Carbon, there were guitars on sale to local tourists. You know, so I don't know when it stopped, or we still find this, but somehow it has lessened. You know, the production for local travelers has lessened. So that's my experience. So there was some kind of a local music industry connected with Cebu guitar being an icon of the place, meaning it's a symbol of the place. If we go to Cebu, parang you haven't been. It will feel as if you haven't gone to the place if you do not bring home a guitar. So especially yung mga small guitars, handy yon kasi ukulele yon. But in the past, it used to be called buktot. Buktot. There was a
hunchback.
A hunchback kasi there was a small guitar before the ukulele, and I think the buktot is the name for a small guitar, and it's called buktot back in 1930s, and this has been documented. Buktot has 4 strings, similar to the ukulele, and we know ukulele became popular. It's a Portuguese instrument, and then it became popular because of Hawaiian music. No, so yun. I experienced it myself. You know, the local commerce, although of course I didn't do actual research on the for tourism, you know, souvenir guitars, a souvenir from the island of Cebu. Yeah, yun lang ang ano.
So that's your photo.
Yeah. The book 1930s documented by the Chief Justice at the time, Roberto Romualdez, who was a professor in UP. He was a lawyer, but also a philologist, someone who studies the origins of things. So he documented this. So my feeling is that this is really just a small version of the Western guitar because it has 4 strings. 4, di ba? 4 strings. So parang ukulele siya of some sort.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Kapalitan ni siya.
Oh, it's at Palm Grass Sinugatan, gifts from Cebu. So actually, there was also a version by Dr. 𝗪𝙂𝗪 about that. His theory was that the ukulele or the gitara nga gamay, your gitara nga gamay, became popular as a souvenir item when during the American period, in Mactan Air Base. So that's his theory. Now, when there were American soldiers in the Mactan Air Base, and they wanted a souvenir to bring to Kuan, to when they go back home. So that's why they wanted to bring the the ukulele from Mactan. And there is also, I asked also Ahmed Quezon, also the one who wrote the history of Lapu-Lapu City. And his theory also is that the Mactananons or the Mactan people are very good in wood carving. They carve the wood for the church and the furniture. So actually, our furniture, reclaimed wood from the old house here, it's carved by also someone from Mactan. So and then so that's his theory that because before when they would carve furniture or boat or things, so later because of the demand for the guitar, so that's why they are wood carvers. So that's his theory also, because the Mactananons or the Opunganons are wood carvers. So we would like to show you this video by Dr. Jojo Benconseo, our award-winning filmmaker.
No, I'm not a filmmaker, really.
Documentary maker. so we show you his video of Gitara nga Gamay. There's a song, Gitara nga Gamay. And this is his video. Daghang salamat for that beautiful video. I can just imagine how you shot that at the sea, at the beach.
Can I
Please
tell you
show,
something?
please show.
I was
Dr.
with Dr. 𝗏𝗏. Pumunta kami, ningadto mi sa Kabilao Island. And then there was one morning, wala na may gibuhat. Sabi ko, yung neighbor, sabi ko, mag-reenact tayo para sa, I was thinking of gitara nga gamay. So, naghimo ko ako lang gibutangan og arrangement. Nya ang akong clavinova nga instrument, bag-una na ako napalit. So, mao na akong unang yung naghimo sa akong clavinova. So, sa technology aided lang siya. But mangutana ka, bakit unsa ning ngano ning ganahan gyud kay kuan ning gitara nga gamay?
Yes. Please tell us.
Oo, kay ngano mao man ni ang kanta nga gikanta sa akong mama bata pa mi, no? So murag akong mama was a public school teacher in Consolacion. I've been teaching a long time. And ang repertoire niya, ang number of songs nga ihibaw-an, daghang kaayo from religious songs o kaning mga gitara nga gamay, mga pagkagarboso, kanang mga karaan nga kanta ba. Deeply in my mind, ganahan gyud ko inani nga Cebuano folk song. Kay tradition siya nga gikan sa akong mother. Kunya, munang nakaunahon nakapalit ko og clavinova, so I decided ako ning i-record kay wala man gyud puro naman gyud commercial na gyud kaayo ang mga naa sa kuan, kana naman yung Afro-American R&B naman gyud ang mainstream, no? So murag na tabunan gyud ang Cebuano heritage because of that. But ako, I have a memory of my mother singing to me. So mao akong gi-record sa Calvinova, no?
Daghang salamat for sharing the beautiful story that it's because his mother, Dr. Jojo's mother, would sing that to them when they were young. So, but it's not a lullaby. It's a folk song.
Actually, inani, ang kanabitang definition sa lalabay o ang harana, descriptor mo gina siya. So any song that fits the theme o tama sa context, like ang function is to put a baby to sleep. So even a religious song can be called a lullaby if it functions as a. So don't let us be bothered so much. Unsa gi definition sa harana ba? Basta mo fit sa context. Ang context is more important. Kaya ang context may mag-determine sa meaning. So ang context, if harana, then it's about more a courtship of some sort, no? So a theme about love is harana. Ang likewise, ang lullaby, if it's performed to put a baby to sleep, then it's a lullaby. So we have a gitara nga gamay, which was sung to me. So I really like that song, no?
Yes, it's a beautiful song. So now we wish the young people would hear it now. So we have this question, Dr. Jojo, regarding from Celestino Macacher. He is a book author on Arnis, and the tremolo. I don't know if you can answer this because, of course, Dr. Jojo is an ethnomusicologist. He knows more of the indigenous string instruments. The tremolo is a strumming technique in classical guitar to simulate a legato. The same sound is played in rondalia. Was the rondalia playing influenced by the tremolo of classical guitar?
Can I answer this quickly?
Yes.
You know, mandolin, I think is guitar is different because you know in the lute family in Mediterranean cultures there are actually at least three. You know, we have the vihuela, we have the guitarn, which evolved into the guitar, and then we have the mandolin in southern Italy. So yung tremolo, I don't think ang classical guitar kasi evolved in 18th century, but the mandolin, which was also already played, mandolin or bandola, which was already tremolo, nauna pa siya. So I don't think the classical guitar influenced an instrument earlier than it, you know. So, but they all belong to the lute family of the Mediterranean. Wala pa nga dito ang oud, ang gambus from Arabia, nakaabot sa Southeast Asia, but gambus or oud became oud. It's an Arabian instrument. Wala makabot sa Pilipinas kasi it's more associated with the Arabs. No, oud, the oud. But we have it in the rondalia somehow. It's combined. Laud, octavina, banduria, octavina, laud, and then bahodionia. So somehow may Arabic element pala ang rondalia rin. But I'm saying, I think nasagot
Yes.
na ako ang
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Jojo. So to Grandmaster Celestino Macature, so that's the answer by Dr. Jojo. So maybe later during the open forum, we can go back to those questions that were given. I can no longer see them on my here. Some I can no longer see. So we have this last message from Mexico from Maestro Dani, and he wants to tell us this. So may we have Maestro Dani regarding his message for us Filipinos and Cebuanos and Visayans. So we have.
I think for me,
Correct.
what I would hope for Filipinos in the Philippines
Rewind.
is to realize that Filipinos and Mexicans, above all, but all Latin Americans, we are brothers and sisters. Even though we have the American colonization, we were under Spanish rule for 330 years, just the same as Mexicans and Latin Americans. And I find it tragic that Filipinos are not conscious that they're still part of the Hispanic world. And a very good book was published in the United States in 2015. It's written by a Philippine-American anthropologist who teaches I think at the University of Southern California. And it's called The Latinos of Asia, How Philippine Americans Break the Rules of Race. And he said in the book that when you look at Filipinos in the United States, or people like me, Filipino-American mestizos, even though we acknowledge we're Asian and we have so many Asian customs, and I grew up with big bags of white rice and a rice cooker and soy sauce, right? But in the end, we tend to gather with Mexicans more than with other Asians. We tend to feel that we have so much more in common, even though we honor our Asian background. So my only wish as to finish this interview with you is to say, congratulations for doing this, for raising the awareness of Mexican connection, because I really think Filipinos can't fully understand ourselves unless we see ourselves with a profound connection to Mexicans and to Latin America. So again, many, many congratulations. In Spanish, we say, muchas felicidades, muchas felicitaciones.
Daghang salamat, Maestro Dani. Muchas gracias. So, of course, we are we are one, or there's another. We are one of the Spanish colonies that don't speak Spanish. And we are proud of it, which means that our native language is really very strong, and we are able to resist, because what the missionaries did was to learn our language, to colonize us. They could not colonize us if they would not learn our language. But the Americans did it so easily by just bringing how many boatloads of English teachers to teach English. That's why we are speaking in English right now. When we were we became independent, the official language was English. In 1940, was it 1945? 1940.
There are many.
Yes.
There are many Philippine republics, and we are still evolving.
Yes. So now we go back to Dr. Jojo. So get ready to the Guitar Foundation, who would be playing a special performance after this conversation with Dr. Jojo. So we would like to ask Dr. Jojo regarding what his insights about, should we bring back this tradition of the string instruments, like the indigenous instruments, the colonial, pre-colonial, and indigenous heritage, our string instruments of the pre-colonial times, and then the indigenous peoples right now who still have string instruments, and of course the Spanish period or the colonial period, the guitar. What do you think?
I think, and ito bang pangutana nga ibalik pa nato ang tradisyon. I
Yes.
think naagit tayo good understanding of unsa man ni ang tradisyon. Kay naa may daghang klase nga tradisyon. Na ay, ang ako yung ganahan nga tradisyon ay kaning living tradition, meaning from the past but continuing the present. Naa sa ning tradition nga from the past pero namatay somehow. The example of which is balitaw, kay wala namang magbalitaw doon ba? Well, naa kung mga naay extant gamay sa bukid pero wala na gid siya sa overall Cebuano culture. So we will call that remembered tradition, meaning naputol nya pangutano nato ato ba ni siyang balikon, murag lisod sa siguro, no? So ang remembered tradition dili kayo siya, well, naagi na kay naa man sa atong memory makibawta, it will just appreciate our past, but iba lahi gining living tradition, no? So ang nasa ilaing tradition nga gitawag og invented nga tradition. Now ang invented nga tradition is mo kay ang tradition mo encounter ba siya og mga new things, kay ang mainstream karon is all new, no? So ayet naatay memory sa atong kakaugilingon nga musika. So somehow we have to negotiate a tradition nga unsaon man nino nga naa may bag-o nga nahitabo karon. So ang tendency sa uban is to invent tradition. Ang gikan sa past ilang himuon og bag-o para masabtan sa mga bata, no? So merong invented tradition. Pero kung ako yung pangutan-on, no, if unsa may akong tradition nga ganahan nga ma-preserve, kani gid sigurong living tradition. Kaya ibalot nga ang guitar is a living tradition. Inani nagsugod ta og discuss sa karaan nga prehispanic, pero niingon ko nga lahi kay ni sa western guitar. Pero tingali gidawat sa mga Cebuanos ang western guitar tungod kay naa sila experience sa karaan nga guitar nga nila nausab lang, so na transform. But from deep history to kuan naagid ang guitar, so mas maayo gid siguro nga atong i-foster ang living tradition, the concept of a living tradition. Kay part man sa atong naaman sa atong huna-huna, naaman gikantahan man ko sa akong mama, I experience it. So murag living tradition for me. So continuous siya, no? Murag pero kaning invented tradition na mo gipanagsa nga i-exaggerate nato ang mga modern mo nang pag exaggerate na modern wala mabalanse ang old, so murag napapas ang old. So invented tradition dili kay ta nang invented tradition oy kay masubraan, murag mahimo na hinong carnival ang atong music nga nawala na atong identity, no? Na katong balitaw nga murag remembered tradition, murag dili sa tumaayo kay murag karaan naman to, so past pero we still value them, but wala na tay action. Mas maayo kung naon nga tradition living so that mo continue siya sa future, gikan sa past naa sa present but continuing to the future. Kung remembered, aming uta dili nak manghunaw nako kay remembered naman lang to, walay action for futurity. Kung inon sa ta invented tradition, ang word ng invention kuan man god ma-threat sa atong kinaiyahan ba, so mahimo ang atong wala na ang mga budbud, wala na ang mga pagkaon niya, wala na ang litson kay mao man ni mga atong experience central kaayo sa kuan, kay puro na makdo atong kanon, puro na gyud outside. Wrap up na ko, no? Sige, puro kay mo sa tulo ka tradition, no? Ganahan yun ako. akong endorso is really think of a tradition that we have now and project it into the future without necessarily inventing too much. And without also surrendering na wala na ang Cebuano culture, dead na, always remembered na lang siya, no? Walang futurity. We have to think of tradition as continuing. If we really look at it in the long term, the guitar has always been with us. No? Murang inahanap ang akong inspirational message. Thank you.
Dahil salamat, dahil salamat, Dr. Jojo. So, actually, I was also thinking, we will prepare our young people. Is this young? The Guitar Foundation. They would quartet or a trio will perform from the Guitar Foundation while they are setting up their instrument. I would like to ask Dr. Jojo. I've read also in Father Francisco Alcina, because the balitaw, it's really the communication between a man and a woman using music. It's really a Visayan, a Cebuano or Visayan musical tradition. Like they would communicate through music. And Father Francisco Alcina mentioned that when they use their voice, like they would sing, not just the musical instrument. When they would sing, it's impromptu, and they are very witty, and they always speak about all things bad. So maybe it's about sex. That's why it's bad for him. So it's impromptu. Like they would exchange, like they would sing impromptu. So that's balitaw later, right? So it was already in pre-colonial times. There was already that practice of a man and a woman exchanging impromptu through music, and it's not done now. You cannot. Can we still find young people or even who can create poetry in a song or a song impromptu in witty and very poetic and with poetic and witty and very bad?
No, inani akong view ay ang balitaw itself kay murag what nahanaw na mga siya, no? And the last was yung Tony and Pasing, yan migrate in sa Australia. So 1890s I think. Nakuan siya. So pero ang atong skill sa wordsmithing, we create poetic words. I think it's something but niguha siya sa lain nga form. Murag inana siguro, no?
Yes. So we have Romel. Please put in Romel. His audio. Yes.
Form karon sa bago kanang we call this one flip top. Murag rap battle nga. Kanang kuan siya, murag freestyle siya ba nga kuan pero poetic.
Oo. Yan Binisaya.
Pero actually I witnessed the flip top. They actually prepared we had rap battles also here in Bisaya. We let them debate. It's like a debate. It's like a debate. I would ask them how will you kill Magellan through words? So they actually prepared already the first two segments. But the rebuttal is the one that is impromptu.
Pero murag dili sa kaayo exactly.
Okay, pulos
Dili
lala.
sa balitaw kay ang balitaw naa mo siya lahi mang mga themes kay ang battle rap o kanang flip top lahi man na siya og kuan sad.
Murag American sad ang iyang influence, no?
But ang concept akong
ang concept.
So
we had this, for example, this is a very popular, we usually do that in our heritage trail adventure here at Palmgrass. We term as balitaw the song of 𝗏𝘅𝗏𝗏, the pasayawa kuday, sayaw lang sa uban. Pero kada is already recorded. It's not impromptu. But the form is something like that. Pasayawa kuday, sayaw lang sa uban. Ikaw may gusto ko. Nganong ako nga naa may uban. So it's witty. It's something bad for the missionaries. So but it's not anymore done today.
Si 𝗏𝘅𝗏𝗏 was here with you.
Yes, 𝗏𝘅𝗏𝗏 was here. He was singing. I asked him to sing Carmela. So we have this interaction as our guitar young musicians, young guitarists from the Guitar Foundation they are still preparing. So Carmeleta says, tinuod mahilis jud ka kung maharanahan ka. So you will melt. Mar Carmelita says she will melt if you are kung haranahan ka, if you are serenaded. Voice of experience ni naka-yes noon ko. It's because of Harana that she said yes. Instrumental music by the guitar, gamay o dako, indeed, is an instrument that could turn on the keys of a woman's desire. Allah. So, based from experience ni, voice of experience ni Carmelita. Naikanta sa nga Carmelita, no? I love you, Carmelita.
Kinsa may composer sa Carmela?
Carmela kay Vicente Ruby.
Vicente Ruby.
Oh, pero si Dr. Wadhwhi says, he said someone else. But I researched about Carmela because si Dr. Hopio made it as an example of the harana, of the form of the harana. Carmela, dadun ko ikaw sa himayang dayon. Mga matay na yun sila, ana. I will bring you to heavenly bliss. Patay. So we have the guitar. Are they ready? Mo-test pa sila. So do we have the names of the Quran? Do we have the names of our guitarists, our trio? Na sila nga most play lang sa sila, later na lang name. Tagaan lang ko sa name.
Kuwang pag usa ka mic.
So we have we thank the Guitar Foundation of the Philippines for partnering with us in this event, and of course treating us to their performance of the guitar. Unsa ang piece inyong i-play? What will you be playing? 𝗵𝗶𝗃 𝗪𝗪𝗪 is another folk song, ha?
We're playing a medley of 𝗶𝗃 𝗪𝗪𝗪.
Our folk songs, Rosas Pandan and 𝗶𝗃 𝗪𝗪𝗪. So let's listen to the performance of the Guitar Foundation Incorporated. Okay. Congratulations. Oh. Taga Kalubihan. Congratulations for the very beautiful guitar performance of the Guitar Foundation, Guitar Foundation of the Philippines. So we don't know, I don't know yet their names. So actually another one would perform later after a few performances also by 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So now we will have 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 again. So we have seen the young people. So we have really seen that the young people are still interested really in the guitar. So of course the guitar is now it's widely used right now in gigs, right? Unfortunately, we don't know its origin. So now we're talking about it. So now we would like to ask Romel to tell us, because of course the young people have shown us their guitar capability, their expertise in guitar. We would also like to know, Kang Romel, how were you able to, how did you become interested in the guitar, or at what age did you start getting interested in playing the guitar?
At an early age of 5, no, murag nakakuan ko nga, I'm into music because akong lolo, he used to kuan kanang mag-inom sila silang barkada, so na iya kong ipatong sa lamesa dayon magkuha siya gitara, iya ko pakanta-kantahon. So ang iyang mga barkada itsa-itsahan kog kwarta. So I just realized nga, oy, performer na giday ko at 5 years old. So nag-elementary ko, nag-member ko sa among school choir. Nakamao na kumukanta to gamay, pero na-interested ko og guitar, lisod man mo kanta nga a cappella. So inko nga maayo gyud nga makaton ko og instrument. So unsa man nga instrument nangutana ko? Unsa nga instrument? Piano, dili pwede ang piano because during that time grabe mi kalisod and we cannot afford one, no? Ang among balay perting gamay mahugno kung butangan og piano. So so pinaka kuan gyud nga instrumento nga pinaka best good nga instrument is guitar because portable siya. Kung mangharana ka or magpa-cute ka og babay, magpa-impress ka og babay, you can always bring a guitar then sing. So, mo-melt na ang babay ana. So so diha ko
Melt
na
with you, gid atong team karon.
So diha ko na nag-practice og gitara. So
now we would like to ask you regarding sample of the song nga katong when you first learned how to play the guitar.
Actually, ang pinaka-kuan gyud nga song akong gi-practice, it's an English song nga duha ra ka chords pwede na ka mo kanta. So lipay kay ko to ay duha ra ka chords sayon ra kay ni. It is the song by America, A Horse with No Name. Nga duha ra gyud ka buok hantod mahuman pwede na ka kakanta. So lipay kay ko. So I'll just mora gini siya hantod mahuman.
So unsa lang nga chord?
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rings. The first thing I met was a fly with a buzz and the skies with no clouds. You see, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one but to give you no pain. Let's sing it. La. Thank you. La 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 la. Thank you.
So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So
ilan kayo mga age level ani? age bracket. So Romel, I would also like to ask you, so when you first learned how to play the guitar, were there also Bisaya songs during the time that was popular? Were there popular Bisaya Cebuano songs at the time?
Mga Bisaya nga kanta.
Unsa man na nga year? When you first
Murag
learned.
elementary pa ko.
So when you first learned what
Grabe
year,
naman
di siya
ba tong
musulti og year do.
Grabe na tong ang English ang kanang American music ato nga time. But I grew up listening to the songs of Max Urban. And in fact, my style of writing, choice of words, kuan gyud kanang na-influence jud ni Max Urban. Kay every day mo ginay paminawon sa akong mama ug papa. So usa nga kantang ni Max Urban akong na kuan kining hapit na musalo ang akong adlaw. Kay medyo hanap naman kining akong pananaw. Apan kung mag-compute nako sa masyaw, ambot nga no ang numero pagkatinaw. Diha ko muna nga my style of writing, ganahan magugo sa style ni Max Urban kay medyo katawanan unya na seryoso niya katawanan. So mostly if you're going to listen to my songs nasa Spotify, Romel Tico, daghan kog mga Bisaya nga to. More or less mo kuan siya og Max Urban.
Yes,
so I'll be playing some of my originals later.
So that song, for those not Bisaya, that song is about Masyaw, which was the lotto.
Suertres.
Suertres in the past. So when his eyesight is no longer clear, but when he already computes the numbers for Masyaw, it gets very clear. 2020 vision na dayon. So now tell us about your experience in composing music and the sample of your hit Visayan song.
Sige. Moto ako, as I mentioned earlier nga ang influensya ginako og himog kanta is Max Urban. Although na ako'y mga few songs gisuwat in Tagalog, English, and one of those I think you're familiar with tong Ulan. Lagi na lang umuulan, but when I started writing songs in Bisaya, Maksurban gyud akong kuan. And the first song, Bisaya song that I wrote before Dili Tanan, the title is kuan, Okay Ra. I'm just gonna give you a few lines to give you an idea of what is the song all about. So, Okay Ra.
La 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 la. La 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 la. Oh, okay ra mukatawang maghilak. Ang pait kun maghilak unya mo katawa. Okay ra daghag uyab basta dalaga. Ang pait kun minyo unya daghag kabit. Okay ra, okay ra, okay ra, okay ra, mangutang basta mo bayad. Ang pait igpaningil daghag pasangil. Okay ra, okay ra, okay ra, okay ra, kung magsigi ka og simba. Ang pait kun imong batasan di makaon og itik. Okay ra kayang tanan ana-ana kanimo. Ang pait kay walay katagbawan ng tao. Okay ra, okay ra, okay ra. Oh, la 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 la. La 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 la. Last. Okay ra kung di ko muhunong og kanta.
Dili.
Ang pait kay wala na ko'y maistorya. Okay ra, okay ra, okay ra. Gusto na, hunong na, sakto na. Oh yeah, daghang salamat.
Salamat.
Motoy usas una na kong kanta nga gihimo, sunod dayon Dili Tanan na dayon.
So there's a similarity with your songs. Like there is a message. Like it's just like you are trying to inculcate good values in the song. But of course, it's not very like Max Urban. Kay si Max Urban, kuan good. It's witty, but not necessarily putting values in it. So now Romel would treat us to his most the hit, his most sana pagsulti ng pinaka-hit pinaka-hit nga kanta, ang Dili Tanan.
Okay. Actually, nasuhat ko ni kanta. I heard a song of John Lennon. The song, Love is real, real is love. Diba, gibali-bali siya. Yan, naimi kuan. So, gusto kong maghimo og inani nga kanta. And the first line that came sa akong hunahuna is kuan, Dili tanang laki guwapo. Pagbali na ko ikong, hala, dili tanang guwapo laki. Made sense. So mo to hantod na dili tanang guwapa babae, dili tanang babae guwapa inana. So and the rest nahuman gid siya nga kanta. So ako to karon okay ra?
Yes.
Pakpak sa balik 30 lang. Okay, so here's Dili Tanan.
Dili tanang laki gwapo, dili tanang gwapo laki. Dunay uban ilang dugo birthday, macho tan-aw niya uyab lalaki. Dili tanang babayi gwapa, dili tanang gwapa babayi. Dunay uban kanhi lalaki, na usab kay nagparitoke. Yeah. Dili tanang buutan mo simba, dili tanang mo simba buutan. Dunay uban kay magpagarbo lang, sa ilang sinina nga bagong giutang. Dili tanang kurap politiko, dili tanang politiko kurap. Na ay kurap tungod sa mga tao, kay kung way kwarta dili iboto. Dili tanan mauy akong giuluhan, nining kantahan walay tumong ug way padulngan. Ang mga lyrics gibali-bali ug way hinungdan. Busa paghilom, paminaw ug katawa na lang. Oh, dili tanang upaw sinaw, dili tanang sinaw upaw. Dunay lanay kay mauwaw, pero mangisog mo kalit lagimaw. Dili tanang linog uyog, dili tanang uyog linog. Among balay gasigilag linog, basta si mama ug si papa magdog. Daghang salamat. Actually,
Daghang salamat. So, actually, sa katong version mo, the last part, maksurban kay to. The last part was maksurban kayo. The first part, rumeltoy ko to. Rumeltoy ko.
Thank you.
Mga kuan man to,
Thank you.
murag pari, murag kasi, murag, dahil mga kuan ba, mga gospel messages. Ang first part sa imong song, and the last part, maksurba na kayo. All the bad things kung sa mga missionary pa. So, thank you very much to
Thank you,
Romel
thank you.
for sharing with us his guitar expertise also and the songs, his hit songs on guitar. So we have another also a sample performance on guitar, also a singer-composer from the flag. So stay tuned for the reaction from the Guitar Foundation of the Philippines. Is there still someone playing for the from the Guitar Foundation? Wala na. So after this is the reaction and then questions from the audience. If you still have questions, only one or two questions from the audience because we also have this trivia quiz with exciting prizes. Or mag-trivia quiz ata? Di, si Kuansa, asa naman so we have si Paul. Is he ready? So while we are waiting for the setting up or dili ta mag-diretso na ni. So while we are waiting for the setting up of the we would like to inform you that we have this trivia quiz with exciting prizes. Okay naman to no, nag-last na may closing statement na silang kuan. Mag-closing kamo. Mag-closing. So si Kuan, so we have this trivia question. Pwede ta na ilang or okay na na? Sige. So we have our special performance right now is he is a singer-songwriter. He is of the Abyss band and a licensed tour guide, a member of the flag, and he would like to perform for us his song Salamat Kaayo that was nominated by Cebu Siloy Awards 2023 as an inspirational song, and he would want to release his album this year. So this is Paul Vincent Camoro.
Okay.
Yes. Maayo hapon. My first experience with guitar was when I was 10 years old, and then it hit me that much of all our talents as our gift comes from the eyes above. So this is my song of gratitude. This one's called Salamat Kaayo. Salamat kaayo ania kamu karon. Salamat kaayo sa suportang gihatag. Sa daghan sa pagsulay kita nagmalampuson. Di awang giagian pero nagpabiling kita naghiusa. Salamat kaayo, salamat kaninyo, salamat kaayo sa tanan kaninyo. Salamat kaayo, ania kitang tanan. Salamat kaayo, magamba kita sa kalipay. Halamdumon kaayo kini nga adlaw. Nangandoy lang kita gahapon o karon nagmadaugon. Salamat kaayo, salamat kaninyo, salamat kaayo sa tanan kaninyo. I say hey, 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 oh, 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 oh. Hey, 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 oh, 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 oh. Salamat kaayo, giagak mo ako. Salamat kaayo, kinasing-kasing ng pag-abak mo. Kamu gayud ang naminaw sa suliran ko. Kasaligan kagayo sa hilak o kalipay. Salamat kaayo, salamat kaninyo, salamat kaayo sa tanan kaninyo. Salamat kaayo, salamat kaninyo, salamat kaayo sa tanan kaninyo. I say hey, 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 oh, 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 oh. Hey, 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 oh, 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 oh. Salamat kaayo, salamat kaayo. I say hey, 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 oh, 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 oh. Hey, 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 oh, 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 oh. Yeah, thank you very much. Salamat kaayo.
Salamat kayo. Murag pag-closing song yun to, no? So, daghang salamat for that beautiful performance also. So we have our reactor right now. Huh? Guitar Foundation. So before the another performance from the Guitar Foundation, we have this reaction also from the Guitar Foundation of the Philippines president. So we have Francis 𝗏𝗏𝗏. So is Francis here? So thank you very much to the Guitar Foundation for partnering with us in this event, and also for the beautiful performance of the guitar trio a while ago.
Thank you,
So,
thank you very much. This is a very surprising discovery of this place. We didn't know that there is such a heritage venue or hotel like this one. And as I was looking around, this is a very suitable for an intimate performance for the instrument, the guitar. And we will be back here for sure in some of our, future events. Going now to the question, I've been listening to Dr. Jojo. Thank you very much for the insights and the information, the history of the instruments which we play. We're talking about the galleon from Mexico that docked straight or first here in Cebu, brought instruments like the guitar and the harp. My memory held right that I had experience, or I have known that the old guitars in the past consist of 5 strings. I don't know if the Mexican brought it here as 5 strings. Now currently there are several guitars now which are 7 strings, 8 strings, and 10 strings. Now, well, the 12 strings are, not really meant for solo, but these are the solo instruments, guitar instruments, which is stringed by nylon. Now, I don't know if, I was wondering if the 5th string guitar was originally from Mexico, or I would say so because they were the ones who brought it here. And I would assume that it is directly here in Cebu, and they were crafted in the locals, the native. Was it really in Mactan? And second question is the music 𝗏𝗏𝗏, which I would like to know exactly what it is. I mean, is this a form of a Visayan sort of a genre, if I may call it, or something, or a form of the Visayan songs, which may have some sub kinds of it? So, the characteristic of the music itself, what 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is really. Thank you.
daghang salamat to Francis, President of the Guitar Foundation Philippines Incorporated. So he has also questions for Dr. Jojo regarding the 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Is it a genre? And also about the 5-string guitar, instrument, string instrument. Or just the 𝗏𝗏𝗏 na lang?
Oh, just a 𝗏𝗏𝗏, because I cannot, yung 5-string guitar, I cannot answer that because that's a detail that I haven't done research, so I cannot guess. The 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is a genre, and I think it's an indigenous genre that was transformed. Nandyan ang fundamental, then it moved into a different na gitara na not the 𝗏𝗏𝗏 anymore. Kasi yung song duet, prehispanic yan eh. I mean, it's still being practiced but remembered in Mindanao right now. Kaya nga I'd like to correct sana yung, it's part of the pamanhikan o sanang panimalay. Sana kanang
pamalayi.
Pamalayi. It's part of the pamalayi. Ang courtships kasi sa Philippines, it's not romantic talaga na individual to an individual. It's always with parents' consent. Now, kung ang girl ay medyo mag-accept na, then ang girl's family, sila, wife giver party, Tsaka yung wife taker, yung babae, yung lalaki pala ay wife taker, mag-meet sila. So meron yung symbolic na music na ang lalaki ay magsalita ng verses, tapos sasagot yung babae. So dalawang pamilya ang magharapan pero through music. So indigenous yan. Pagdating ng siguro with Spanish culture coming around na kasi parang pangit yon, yung parang na-transform siya into a balitaw. Kaya lang it's really konting sayaw, but it's man and woman doing a debate. But ang topic nila is yung value ng exchange, kasi the woman is not just an object that is moved, but meron siyang purity, may mga social values na i-display doon. Kasi para kasing bibilhin yung babae, di ba? Pero ang money na hindi naman, it's more like symbolic exchange. So parang ganyan ang marriage negotiation, ang courtship to marriage negotiation. Parang merong consent ng dalawang family, and symbolize ito sa pamalay nga na ay music, na ay balitaw, o dili pa balitaw sa una, lahi pa nga genre siguro. But it's there. Basta
Dr. Jojo.
balitaw is a type of song debate between man and a woman accompanied by the guitar, but kini siya nga tradition transformed na ni pagdating sa Espanyol. Pero naa siya basis nga laong pagyud, nga naa siya influence, na prototype ba? Prototype moray naa siya gigikanan sa laong pa sa history. We're talking about here of hundreds of years na transform, but we remain the same inhabitants of this island. Parang inana ba? No, na-transform lang tayo into many forms. Pero ang atong existence, Cebuano, gyapon kayo.
So, Dr. Jojo, we would like to ask you, which part in Mindanao have you witnessed that exchange of music between the family of the man and the family of the woman?
Yeah. Page 43 of Dr. Manolete Mora's Myth, Music, and Magic Among the Tibuli. So you should sell that book. Kaya naangat to ang Kodyapi. Traditional pag yun. Nawagtang naman wala na yung practice sa Mindanao. Pero ang mga bukid noon, naghan sa kaya na mga, I think, 8 to 9 groups. Sila Kodyapi niya, ang babae mo magdala og bamboo instrument, sayaw na. Lahat ng sayaw nga dili siya debate, song debate, roman, couple dance nga kinaraan pag yun, kani pa ilang gamiton. Kani.
So we showed the kutyapi here from the one that you sent us.
Oo, Southern Philippines, hindi siya na-specify, mura man siya maranawon.
So, daghang salamat, Dr. Jojo. So, actually, we would like to show you, I waited for him when he went out, to show you that in this book, More Cebuano Than We'd Admit, it's edited by Dr. 𝗠𝗂𝗏 and Dr. Hope Saban-Panyu. Dr. Jojo Buenquesejo has an article here about the Cebuano zarzuela. And it's a very good article tracing this theater tradition, the Spanish theater, which became also Cebuano later, and became a vehicle also for the patriotic plays of Don Vicente Soto.
And 𝗵𝘀𝗀𝗏.
Yes. So you should look for his article here. And if you want to know also about lechon is also here. But I was asking Dr. 𝗠𝗏𝗏, is there about the guitar there? He said, no. We couldn't find anyone who could write about the guitar.
Volume 2 na lang, volume 2.
So volume 2. So he could not find yet someone who could write the guitar here. So maybe in the next volume of More Cebuano Than We Admit. And there is also here about how tourism started. So that's what he discussed when we had a coffee talk with him last year here at Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel. So we have this trivia quiz with exciting prizes. So we give you first this question for the on-site audience. So the second, we only have very few left for the online question. The third is on-site and online, but you would answer through the comment section and you would win exciting prizes. As usual, nanay disqualified diri ang mga Hall of Famer in trivia quiz. Mga champion si Ellen and Ferdinand, nagtapad ra ba mga Hall of Famer in answering the trivia quiz? Napaday si Ferdinand Pagao, already on site. Also a Hall of Famer answering the questions. Tulo ka book at there are three nga kanang who are the, we should take a photo of them, Hall of Famer in trivia quiz. So this question is for the ones on site, and if you would answer, please raise your hand and go to, is the camera ready? I think the camera of the microphone, the camera is not ready. So this is a question. So if you listen to our discussion, and of course we have our resource person on site who would who would who would be the judge if your answer is correct. So the question is this. Name, you will win a hilot binisaya with orasyon because of our healing tradition that we have orasyon. When we have hilot, you will have hilot binisaya, and it's our therapists learned really from the binisaya manghihilot. We had we had a binisaya manghihilot demonstrate how to do binisaya nga hilot. So this is the question. Name one instrument that was brought to the islands, to our islands, by the galleon trade that later became an instrument in the Rindaya. Patay, isod kayo nga question?
Sa yun, Ranoy.
Pagkuhan kayo, academic kayo. So, for those on site, name one instrument that was brought to our islands by the galleon trade, and later, daghan man to. Pero kung rondalya, gamay ra na. So, Dr. Jojo was discussing the instruments in the rondalya. And also, I think si Cristel of the Professor Cristel. So there is one who would like to answer. Please come to the microphone. Introduce yourself. So we have the president. Di gyud masayop gyud kay kanang di gyud pwede sa di-coach sa iyang members. If the president of the Guitar Foundation of the Philippines in Cebu, Francis Palache.
Was that one of the
What
instruments?
is the one instrument lang? Name one instrument that was brought to our islands by the galleon trade and that later became an instrument of the rondalya.
Is that octavina?
Okay, ra? Okay.
Or bandura? Bandura?
Bandur. Sige, give chance sila. Bandurya. Congratulations. Pero ang octavina, okay man sad, no? Okay, Rasad. Octavina. Oh. Kang Latin. Yes. Bandurya is okay, and also octavina is a part of the rondalya. So,
laod, oo, laod.
naminaw yun sila nag-notes mo. Maayo lang mag-memory, no? Kay memorize good.
It's interesting ang laod, ano? Kasi it came from the Middle East. Tapos na-conquer ng mga Muslims ang southern Spain. Tapos may ano, di ba? And then from Spain, it went to Mexico. From Mexico, arrived in the Philippines. Parang.
So, daghang salamat for that. So, congratulations. You win a free hilot binisaya. We will have orasyon, a healing massage by our babaylanes in our Alima native massage. So, we will experience an orasyon with your hilot binisaya. So, we have also this second question, trivia question for the online audience who are not here. But before that, you would like to hear the performance of the special performance by Dr. 𝗏𝗏 in Gracia. So the descendant of Dato Tupas, the chief in Cebu in 1565. He burned Cebu so that to starve the Spaniards. So we have yes.
Magawas na akong pagkaharanista din karon kay.
So we have Dr. 𝗏𝗏 in Gracia with what's her name? Fernando Alegre. Of the Alegre guitar. So we're so honored to have with us the factory of guitar, guitar factory owner, Fernando Alegre, accompanying Dr. 𝗏𝗏 in Gracia with his song. What's your song? Unsay kantahon ni karon unsay imong kantahon? Murag in amateur ba? Carmela gid ay the example of a harana, a
Harana,
classic
okay.
harana song.
Aron pag hinumdum sa tama ising kagapon atong hinumdumon pinagi sa awit. Sa akong pagmata nakita ko ang langit nung sidlan sa bituon sama sa imong larawan ang kaanyag mo walay sama. Mahimo pala magkatkaton kang langit kung tingog ko ang mga iring-iring sa biton hatong kong hayag sa bulan umingalan ko sa mukil. Carmela, sa adlaw ikaw kung pagaduaw ng tampisong aping pagasutumon kikalipay pahilamon o Carmela pagkatamis mo. Sa kilong-kilong ako magpiyang yan sa tanaw na wala isaan na mubalik niya pangalibutan ng ibayan. Ang kangit-ngit sa kakapion sa daklit ng kabuso mibutho ikaw mapahiyong giduyan-duyan ng akong mga bukton. Carmela, unsay akong mahimo sagog magpagbati ikaw kay nating timani kutob karon timani nga kining tanan matuman. Carmela, kung kakining kay daton ko ikaw sa himayan tayo. Kay daton ko ikaw sa Carmela.
Congratulations. Grabe, haranista gyud Dr. Warfe doesn't need a microphone with a booming voice. The girl would really wake up if she's sleeping and dreaming. She would wake up from bisag tuwa pa siya sa Pikas Barrio. Madunggan gyud. Ha? Ano? Kanang Dr. Warfe would so tiga kanta kag ko ano? Tigkanta kag DYHP? Tigkanta ka DYHP? kanang mga magkanta o kanang mga harana, mga karaang kanta in the radio? Did you have a voice training? Stage actor. Ah. Yes. So daghang salamat. Yes. So of course, Bisaya. So ako ra tingali Bisaya, di maayo mo kanta. So of course, it's very amazing because in the Philippines, when they were having music schools, when the missionaries had music schools, the Franciscans, the Jesuits, the Augustinians had music schools during the Spanish period. They found out that among all countries, among all areas in Asia, they had the most number of music students or those trained in music by the missionaries or by the friars in the Philippines. So the the according to Dr. David Irving in the Colonial Counterpoint, we will sell that book. It would arrive how many months from now? So he was saying that at first they were just the natives were just trying to spoof or to imitate for fun the Europeans when they play their music. So they would just imitate, and they could play the instruments of the Europeans just by looking at them. So they are very good visually. They have visual acuity. They are very good in vision or something like that. That even if they are just looking at the instrument, they can already make it or they can already play it just by looking. So according also to Dr. 𝗪𝗪𝗀 𝗵𝘀𝗀𝗄, just by listening, the natives could already play those instruments. But aside from just from listening, just by looking at it, grabe no, very good. And they were so surprised because even if the natives didn't have musical training, they could be comparable or they could be better musicians than those in Europe, according to the study of Dr. David Irving in Colonial Counterpoint. So for the next, human na niya itong discussion actually. Trivia question number 2. For those online, gamay na lang. So na question actually diri Dr. Jojo. Are there museums from Ron's I can't Ron V Pas are there museums in the Visayas with the artifacts of vihuela or the guitar with gut strings before we shifted to metal strings and synthetic strings? Do we have that also in Manila? No.
No, even in Manila, no.
Even in Manila, they don't have gut strings. So, of course, according to Dr. David Irving, the natives, or even that quoted by Dr. Cristel, the natives replaced the gut strings with twisted silk from China because it is more pleasing and it sounds more like the indigenous strings. Because of this, I asked also the one in the Mindanao, the curator of the museum in Cagayan de Oro. I was asking him, in your immersion among the Higaonon and other cultural communities in Mindanao, where do they get their strings? And he said, from bislig vine, and human and animal hair for strings in their indigenous instruments. How do you make strings out of hair? And then you will play.
Yung hair, hanunoomang yan, Mindoro. But it's both git-git yung horse strings sa ibang horse strings.
So next question for our online audience, prepare for those online. If the online audience wouldn't answer, the on-site audience would answer. So this is the prize for this is a kawa bat, a hulum kawa, with either you will become tinola or tinua with ginger and tanglad and lemongrass and sea salt, or you will want to have the flower bath. You will have flowers in your bath, in your warm kawa bath. Of course, kawa is, asa man nagikan ng kawa? From China. so we have this question, the trivia question number 2. Asa na atong kawa? Wala. Trivia question number 2. So, wala man din ako masulti sa inyo ang answer, no? What? So you have this. You will have an Instagrammable kawa bath if you answer this. What do you? You will still have an orasyon with your kawa. What do you call a Cebuano? Asa na atong question? Wala. What do you call a Cebuano Visayan musical or Cebuano musical genre in which or where a man, sayuna ni ang question, oy, where a man serenades a woman through song. Basta serenade kay song man gyud na. What is, so this is for the online audience. Napa ba tao sa online? Kung walay mo answer online. So we have naka-answer na si Pilapil is sige, answer sad. You can answer. Please answer. What's your name? Please, yung audio.
Answer kay Kundiman. Harana.
Yay! You will win a kawa bath. Congratulations. Duha ka buk atong kawa. Kay si Tanji, was she the one, the first? Is she online or naa dire? Ay! Ano man na siya kawa? Oh, wala ko. Disqualified na. We give chance to, unsay name ni kawa win the trivia quiz winner, si? So she wins a kawa bath. And the last question is for those online and on-site. And the answer, the prize for this is a 5-hour stay at our room for hero with an access to our salt water dipping pool at 𝗺𝗙𝗪𝗀𝗃𝗃. Our 𝗺𝗙𝗪𝗀𝗃𝗃 is named in honor of this warrior in 1565 who fought against Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. So, a salt water dipping pool with 5-hour stay at our lawak hayahay room for hero. So, kini lisod-lisod di. Kay duhaman ka buk ang answer. Si Dr. Jojo has been discussing this, Dr. Cristel Obispado, and even Dr. Sandy Chua, and I was discussing this because this is a very exciting instrument. These are very exciting instruments kay duhaman. So you will win a soak and chill. Good for 2 ni. Good for 2 yun ni. Good for 2 ni ang soak and chill. 5-hour stay for 2. And you can also dip in the salt water dipping pool. Good for 2. So this is the question. So everyone on site, you will answer at the comment section of our Facebook Live event. Name 2 precolonial indigenous instruments, string instruments. One played by the woman and the other played by the man. So these are instruments that can communicate with each other and can make love. Through these instruments, the man and the woman can make love even without talking. So who is able to answer? Duha ni string instruments ha, string instruments. String. Wa gid di sila mag-notes ba? Wala mag-notes. You need to take down notes. So, we have 2 string. Wala, ako rin maka-answer. Si Dr. Jojo, tagaan. So, what is this 2? Pwede na si Romel kung ganan siya. Pero dana sa di siya ikuan kaya gift certificate for being a online. Wala yung ni answer online? You cannot answer online. So, wala pa yung answer online? Wala. Duha ni ha, 2. One answer is not enough. There should be 2. So, pwede rin it. Duha ni siya kay the instrument played by, dili mo maka-answer sa comment section. Online ba ya? Naamoy koan? Naamoy internet? Hapit na, correct ang usaraman. So, wala pa'y correct answer online. there are two, lisod kay din ni kan answer, no? Lisod ay ni nga question.
Lisod na nga question kay once naman sa na-mention.
Ikaw, si
Pero
Kristen.
kani sila puro na pero dili siya man.
Duha buyo.
Oh, duha.
Kang piga kaalsina to. Kaalsina man to.
Ang kaalsina gidunta.
Dili. String man, string instrument man ang question. String instrument, the kini kay unsa man ni wind instrument? Unsa man ni? Unsa ni nga instrument?
Idiophone man tawag.
Wala. Ang subing kay it's not a string instrument. Sige, one ko ano lang, one instrument na lang, di man ninyo kaya duha. Usa na lang di. So, nanay correct. So the first to answer correctly, 𝗵𝗏𝗧 direct, 𝗧𝗐𝗍𝗧. So it's 𝗧𝗐𝗍𝗧. So this is the instrument of, kang kinsa ni nga instrument? Ang 𝗧𝗐𝗍𝗧 sa lalaki ni. So ang 𝗧𝗐𝗍𝗧, ang babay is korlong. Korlong ang babay. Ang babay, and then you know that the Europeans or the Spaniards would say nga kana kunong korlong is the ones played by the toys. It looks like the toys of the young boys in Spain. So according to Dr. Cristel 𝗵𝗂𝗏, that is from Dr. Irving, that they were saying bad things about our instruments to make us stop using them and replace it with their instruments. So they said that the korlong is just like the toys of the young boys in Spain. So anyway, 𝗧𝗐𝗍𝗧 is correct. So the first one to answer is 𝗵𝗏𝗧 direct. So the other one, nakalimot ko sa usa. Nakalimot ka sa instrument sa babay, 𝗵𝗏𝗧. Ang laki ra instrument imong nahinumduman. Dili pwede ko ang lalaki lang, kinahanglanagi babay. Bitaw. Sige. Mona ang last. So, di na ta mag-closing statement pa ta. We for last words from our in-person panelists.
Okay na. Salamat lang kayo.
Salamat rin isulti ni Dr. Jojo. Si Romel na isulti.
Salamat sad kayo sa inyong pagpaminaw. But okay ra mag-promote ko.
Sige.
By the way,
Please show, Romel.
Salamat kayo sa pagpaminaw. Mabuhay ang musikang Binisaya. I do have an album that's already out, katong Dili Tanan, and daghan kay kog mga kantang Bisaya. I hope inyo tong susihon, no? Akong name sa Spotify is 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Please do follow me para madungang-dungangan akong follower. Then nasa ko YouTube channel 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Music. Tuwa dito ako mga Bisaya nga kanta. And sure jud kong malingaw mo. Daghang salamat.
Daghang salamat to 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 for sharing his time and talent with us, and also his knowledge in the guitar, in guitar performance, and sharing with us his hit songs. Thank you also for the very brilliant Dr. Jojo Amenconsejo for joining us and sharing with us his insights, his knowledge about our music, our indigenous music, and also how the transculturation that happened in our islands regarding music. So, daghang salamat also, congratulations. Daghang salamat to our recorded panelists, Dr. Sandy Chua, Inigo Chua, Dr. Cristel 𝗵𝗂𝗏, and Maestro Danny Camara. And daghang salamat to our partners, the 𝗪𝗓𝗏 Foundation Incorporated, Guitar Foundation Incorporated, and join us tomorrow in Leon Kilat at 150. Our other partners, we thank our other partners, USC, Department of Anthropology, Sociology, and History, the USC Center for Social Research and Education, University of Cebu Symphonic Orchestra and Strings Ensemble, and also the San Alberto Carmelite Formation Center, the Central Visayas Association of Museums, the 𝗎𝗎𝗏 Center, and so on 2020. Daghang salamat og maayong hapon or gabi na ba? And we show you again this video that we made that we will post 2 weeks from now because the National Archives of the Philippines still wants to process the permission for that document to be shown. So this is now our video and the history and the historical context, the journey of the guitar. Daghang salamat og maayong hapon.
The guitar rendition of his popular Cebuano ballad, 𝗏𝘓𝗫𝗀 𝗠𝘠𝗫𝗀, showcases the musical prowess of Filipinos and their affinity for melancholic love songs and folk stories. Such keen musical expression and talent did not escape Francisco Ignacio Alsina, a Jesuit missionary from Spain who arrived in the Visayas in 1632 and wrote a detailed account of the Visayan society. He wrote that the Visayans play with such dexterity that by just playing such instruments as the 𝗎𝗎𝗄𝗎 and 𝗎𝗏𝗀, they speak and make love to one another.
𝗎𝗎𝗄𝗎 is two-string lutes, but there are many types of two-string lutes in the Philippines.
𝗎𝗍𝗪𝗏 is a professor of musicology at the University of the Philippines College of Music. He has conducted wide-ranging ethnographic research on Philippine musical traditions, rituals, and cultural history.
There are many types of two-string lutes in the Philippines. In Palawan, I think it's called 𝗎𝗎𝗪𝗏. The resonator is box-like, meaning horizontal. Those in the Maranao looks like a boat. Among the Tibuli, it's called hegalung or faglung.
Music in the archipelago had always been vibrant and entrenched in its cultural practices.
One characteristic of pre-Hispanic societies was that we were so ritualistic. And, if there's a ritual gathering for a certain purpose, like to cure or to inaugurate a house, if people are gathered together in some kind of a celebration, of course, music is always there.
That soundscape, as Professor 𝗏𝘀𝗀 would call it, defined pre-Hispanic music in the Philippines. The development of that soundscape had been driven by active trading in Asia before the arrival of Ferdinand Magellan.
Trade was very important in pre-Hispanic times because without the trade, there could have been no gongs and two-string lutes, 𝗎𝗎𝗄𝗎. These are two most important pre-Hispanic music. Then came the Spaniards, and they brought with them, of course, not just Christianity, but really the Christian culture. And along with it, the diatonic harps, the guitar.
In the 16th century, the guitar was not yet fully developed as we know it today. Its evolution, much like our pre-Hispanic instruments, followed the movements of people, often triggered by explorations, trade, spreading of beliefs, and war throughout history. Before the Spanish guitar gained popularity in Europe, the Arab oud was introduced to Spain in the 8th century. It served as the predecessor of the fretted European lute and Renaissance guitars, including the vihuela and guitarra. One could argue that the diversity of guitar styles stems from the influence of local music, playability, and the innovative approaches that musicians bring to the instrument in various countries. Thus, there is a noticeable overlap of these instruments with multiple variations at a time when the guitar reached Manila. A 1784 document recorded the arrival of two guitars under the name of Don Joseph Mijares. This is the earliest primary records the archives could find, clearly showing guitarra on the inventory of cargoes from Acapulco aboard a frigate named San Jose. The microfiche copy is a reproduction of the original records from the Aduana de Manila, or Manila Customs. An even earlier primary source that researchers often cite is a 1734 hydrographical and cartographical map of the Philippine Islands by Jesuit cartographer Pedro Murillo Velarde. The U.S. Library of Congress reproduction of the map, engraved by Nicolas de la Cruz Bagay, depicted a Kumintang dance, accompanied by a guitarist. The guitar form in the depiction looked similar to a viola di mano or vihuela di mano, popular plucked instruments in Europe at that time.
There has been an introduction of the guitar itself, but what type of guitar was it would be very difficult to ascertain at this point because of the lack of description.
The University of Santo Tomas Associate Professor Maria Alexandra 𝗫𝗎𝗀, who studies the impact of the galleon trade in reshaping the Philippine music, wrote that music, more than language, became the entry point for missionaries in reaching out to the natives.
My research on the cantorales of Bohol actually proved that this particular cantoral music tradition started during the galleon, and based on documents, the galleons have played a very. Role in the dissemination of this kind of music.
Yeah, music in the Spanish period is basically based on a different tonal system. We call it melodic harmonic style, meaning it's melody accompanied by harmony, and we're talking about notes, a different tonal system as opposed to pre-Hispanic, which systems are not quite understood even until now, but different system. Like you can have 5-note scale music based on pentatonic, but not all. There's 3-note music, 4-note music. So you have different non-tonal systems.
You have masses, you have motets. So these are Western music genres that have been brought here, and the natives have been trained to sing these kinds of songs.
During the time, the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade facilitated this transformation. Through the galleon trade, missionaries brought the European Catholic infrastructure to the Philippines, introducing religious teachings, skilled church builders, and pipe organs. The trade also facilitated the introduction of cantorial music, used in liturgical recitations and rituals. And trainers taught the natives how to read, sing, and play musical notes, leaving a lasting impact on the country's music.
If you would look at the musical characteristics of the music, it's in 3/4 time, and you have an arch melody, and it's usually in C major, F major, G major. If you would look at these specific characteristics, you see this also in our folk song. Like, for example, bahay, kubo, kahit, it's tam, pam, 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 pam. That's the rhythm that you see, 3/4 time in some of the music of the cantorales. So you see this link, you see this connection.
Folk music and dance as we know today are usually accompanied not by the guitar as depicted in the 1700s, but by the Philippine rondalla, an ensemble of string instruments.
It was not just the guitar that was imported. I forgot to mention the bandurria. It must have been called like bandola, passing through Latin America. Then later on in 19th century, that became the rondalla. Rondalla with the octavina, laud I think comes second, octavina and the bajo de uñas. So all these are European instruments, but it was disseminated in the country for over 300 years, and you can just expect that through that we incorporated because of the length of time by which it was being used, and until now it has become like a national symbol.
Throughout our colonial history, the guitar was not widely used to accompany liturgical music. It remained on the peripheries of Catholic Church historical accounts. However, its portability and ease of learning to play made the guitar very popular among the common people, and its production could be scaled up quickly to meet the rising demand. Mactan in Cebu is a well-known place for manufacturing good quality guitars. However, it remains an enigma how it became a guitar-making hub.
Di man dili magsilbi og ang dadon nimo ang factory or workers dadon nimo in other parts. Di gyud wa gyud anhir gyud dinhi sa Cebu. Unya dili pud sa whole Cebu, anhir gyud sa Lapu-Lapu. Mactan Island, anhir gyud Mactan Island. Pagdakag workers dito Manila, dili man magdugay manguli.
The guitar-making skills of these workers have been handed down from generation to generation.
Mga 18 pa nanan gitara diri. Kay si Papa 1923 man niya. Ang iya pong mga gidkanon nakahimo naman napatos mga 1890s kapin ba.
Even today, crafting guitars remains a cherished family tradition. This musical instrument has become so deeply interwoven in society, but it was only during the Second Vatican Ecumenical Council in 1967 that the Church officially began using the guitar to accompany liturgical music.
Technically, the church organ is the accepted instrument to accompany the celebration of our liturgies in the church. But owing to the importance of guitar in our culture as Filipinos, then it has become accepted as well as an accompaniment for our liturgical celebrations. And syempre, for us missionaries, guitar is the most practical instrument to be used in our missions, especially in far-flung areas where, of course, we cannot bring the organ in.
Very festive po, very lively yung mass kapag rondalya yung naka-assign sa mass. So they keep on coming talaga. Actually, binabalikan din po talaga, even the foreigners po.
The history of the guitar in the Philippines narrates a story of musical resilience and cultural convergence. From ancient roots to the influences of the galleon trade, intricately woven into our nation's heritage. It symbolizes the universal language of music that unites us and inspires the preservation of our cultural legacy, shaping a harmonious future for the Filipino people. This history is something worth learning about.